Yeah, get the judges. Go ahead. Xavier, you get him. Xavier gonna get you. Hey, stay there with Xavier. Right there with Xavier.
I'm gonna be double judged. Double judged.
It's on one of the Volusia pages. It was funny. I should have screenshot because I said she's gonna know. Like, you know how people get
I don't know who's in there.
Thank you, my colleagues across the way.
Hey, I told the mayor that you supposed to come get me. He said, Paul ain't saying nothing to me. But I said, you wanted to come up here. He's like, I'm like, Paul. All right, we're ready.
Congratulations, by the way. I'm not sure if we're going to send this in. This is a you need to sign it. This is what goes to the The reason why we need to do it is because we got to talk about this. We have to say the reason that's right. So it's not pending dispute, challenge, litigation relating to this. I don't think it affects it, but we just have that information. So if you want to sign here, I'm going to have that
Ken, could you? Let's go.
Well, I don't know if I got it. You two- Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the November 20th, 2024 meeting of the Daytona Beach City Commission. We're delighted to have each of you with us tonight. Madam Clerk, may we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Strickland,
Here.
Commissioner May,
Here.
Commissioner Cantu,
Here.
Commissioner Henry, Commissioner Reed,
Here.
Commissioner Paris,
Here.
Mayor Derek L. Henry.
Here.
Motion to excuse Commissioner Henry.
Second.
We take a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner Cantu. We will have the invocation led by Commissioner Reed, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Strickland. Please rise for the invocation, please.
They need to vote first on
Oh, I'm
the,
sorry.
on the
On the
excusing.
excuse.
Yep.
Let me, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the excuse for Commissioner Henry, please let it be denoted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Please rise for the invocation and prayer.
We already had two.
What did he say? There's a song that says, thank you, Jesus, for all that you've done for me. Thank you, Jesus. You gave me the victory. And tonight we say thank you, because we are victorious once again. 4 of us as we sit here with our colleagues, prepared to run on just a little bit longer for this city. We say thank you. As we look out on Daytona Beach and all that it has to offer and all that it could possibly become, we thank you for the opportunity to sit in these seats and be those decision makers on behalf of our citizens. We give you glory, we give you honor, and we give you praise. And we thank you for all the prayers that have already been asked this evening. And for that, we say thank you. In the mighty and matchless name of Jesus, I pray. Let us all say, Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll now move on to item number 4, approval of the minutes of the October 16, 2024 City Commission meeting.
So moved.
We have a motion from Commissioner May and a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or comments?
That
All
was
those-
Paris, I think.
That was Parrish?
Strickland?
Strickland? May and Strickland. Okay. No questions or comments? All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. 6-0. All right, we'll now move on to our agenda approval. If there are any changes, our city manager will address them.
Yes, Honorable Mayor. Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, item 8B, City Manager's Office Mayor Zone Support Fund donations. Add the following donations: $600 to the Daytona Links for Peace Community Workshop in partnership with the Police Department from Commissioner Paula Reed. $1,000 to the First Step Shelter, Inc. from Commissioner Ken Strickland. Item AC 8C, Finance Department Bike Week Sponsorship Funds. Add $250 to the New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church for their Family and Friends Day from the Bike Week funds of Commissioner Paula Reed. Item 9A, Code Compliance Residential Rental Registration Program, move to December 4th, 2024 meeting. Add item 8Q, Budget Office Safety Water Grant to the consent agenda. Thank you.
I move that we accept the agenda with the said changes.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner May. Do we have any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On 8E. And there's someone to ask this question in finance.
8E.
8E is the golf carts. Okay.
Oh, that's the trade-in allowance
Correct.
related to the golf carts?
And-
What's your question?
The only question I have, so I just want to make sure I was correct. So you didn't capture the transactions, so we're amending the trade-in and the gross cost transaction to adjust the number from the general fund to the capital fund.
Basically, the issue is that when you do a trade-in, you can either do it net, which is how I grew up doing it, which is the way we budgeted,
Right.
because you do the cost minus the trade-in, or you can recognize the trade-in as a separate revenue item, and you do the gross cost. The trade-in had been accepted in the general fund the spending was out of the capital fund, so we increased the budget in the general fund to represent the revenue. Then we moved that over to the capital fund to increase the cost as represented there. It didn't actually change anything in the transaction, just the recording.
Right, that's what okay. And actually, by the way, I like the notes beside. That was a lot easier for us, and so I'm very happy about that. And then,
We should thank Ben, he was heavily involved in setting up.
okay, yeah, that was so much better to see where we're moving. And I do have another question. Is there a threshold when we're transferring money to one account to another? Does it always come before the commission?
No, the only things that come in front of the commission are what are budget amendments, which are increases in revenue, increases in the total budget. Under the fiscal integrity ordinance and state law, we have to bring those to you, but that's all that commissioners have ever, let me try this
Okay,
again,
guys-
have ever asked for in the past.
Right, because I would like to see something, because I'm trying to follow this budget. I would like to see something, if my colleagues are okay with that as well, if it's something that is over 30,000, that it gets put on the consent agenda so we can see where the money is going to one account to the other.
I have no problem setting up agendas. I do, however, have some history knowing of people who play games with that by just setting up a whole bunch of them at 29,000.
Fred, hold on.
But it's-
So what would
Fred,
be-
Let me,
Yes.
let me say this. Are you asking for the commissioners to put the limit of what can be spent in this organization are presented at $30,000? Fred doesn't get to make that decision. Commissioners do, as a policy, if that's your desire.
Right,
So,
well, I already know what can be spent, 25,000. I'm talking about transferring money from one account to another that we can actually see. But if it got too much on the consent agenda, I mean, maybe raising the threshold, but just so we can see where the money is going to one account to the
Can I
other.
just step in for a minute? Because Fred, you forgot one type of amendment the commission would approve, and that is, not that money's coming in, but when we transfer from one fund
Yes.
to another, that
different-
requires
Yes,
commission approval. And I only know that of the direction we're going, because Commissioner Cantu had a discussion with me about this earlier in the week. Commissioner Cantu, I think what you're referring to is authority in the code, and that's been in the code for many years, that allows for administrative transfers between different programs, departments, as long as they're within the same fund. Those can be done administratively without commission approval.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
When I was saying increase in revenue, I meant on any individual fund, and transfer by definition increases the revenue of the fund receiving the money.
Okay, but do you understand what I'm asking? You do? Okay, just so for transparency and accountability, we as a commissioner, since we approve the budget, so we can see exactly what fund is going into what fund. And, I mean, a threshold would be up to the elected body, whatever the amount, but I would like to see that just so it'll be easier for us at budget time.
Maybe we should bring this up at a different point in the meeting. I do want to tell you that if you want to change the policy, we would need to adopt an ordinance that has the current policy. So.
Okay.
And right now, it's currently in the fiscal integrity, it's buried in the fiscal integrity ordinance, which includes many other things, but that is part of it.
Okay, and I just have one last question for you on 8F.
Which one is 8F?
8F, it's,
Sorry.
and the question I have, we're transferring money from the fiscal year to to this fiscal year?
Yes, the roll
Okay,
forward.
I'm just curious myself, I just have a question, I have no disputing it. Is there like a deadline that the money has to be transferred into the new fiscal year?
We cannot amend, no, the old years where the deadline is.
So there's
The-
not like
the
90
deadline-
days or,
The deadline for amending the budget in general is 60 days after the end of the year.
okay, that's what
But there is, if one of the departments finds something in January, then they say, oops, we forgot, we can always bring it another one
can.
to you. So.
okay, that's what the
so,
question I had.
There is
Okay.
no deadline on that kind of maneuver, other than the fact it gets uglier and uglier as time goes on.
Okay, thank you so much. And like I said, the notes on the side, very helpful.
Isn't there something like a $69 million limit for interdepartmental moving money back and forth? Just a question.
No.
No?
No dollar limit in the code as long as the money is being transferred within the same fund.
Within the same fund?
Correct.
How about from one department to the other?
Well, if two departments are within the same fund, or if they both have programs, sometimes programs that two departments might have might be, you know, in their own fund. And here's another thing to think about: whether the money's transferred or not, the authority to expend the money is a different issue altogether. And we still have those guardrails. Managers authorized to spend up to $25,000 for small purchases. We have other provisions elsewhere that give them, you know, greater authority on certain items that this commission's or previous commissions have authorized managers to do. So these are accounting book transfers that we're talking about. So
Thank you.
May I? Ben, I just have a question. So would we have to update this fiscal integrity ordinance?
we'd have to adopt an ordinance to put a limit on the amount that could be transferred administratively. The provisions that we're talking about are in the Code of Ordinances.
For example, there are numerous projects that the commissioners provide, ask the staff to do that are not fully budgeted. If it's within that same budget fund, we'll transfer it to make sure that you can have any event. So those are part of the process if there's not funds available. But from a staff perspective, it's not going to harm us or cause us any problems. It's going to just be something that you all will have to deal with on consent agenda items to review those that you've already pretty much given the authority to because they're budgeted.
But I'm talking about the limit maybe being up to like 30,000. If it's over 30,000, excuse me, then we see where it's being transferred to one account to another. And it would just help for accountability and transparency for our residents and for the commission to follow where the money is going. Since we are the one that approves the budget, it is nice to see what is going on with the budget. So at the end of the year, when we get this big old book, it's not as hard to follow.
Commissioner, one thing to consider that wouldn't require the adoption of an ordinance is if you wanted routine reporting on transfers that exceed that could just be provided to you. And then
And
at that point,
that,
you could,
and you know what, that would work for me too if it's reported. But I think we'd probably need it online as well, because I'm sure the residents would want to see it as well. So, I mean, just so we can follow this money. Not saying anybody's doing anything wrong, it just helps us during budget time knowing where the money is actually going.
And I don't have a problem with it. I want accountability, so.
Right.
Okay. Are we gonna come back to this, or what?
Oh, do you want to just go ahead and, do we need to have a motion for this?
Well, we're in the middle of a motion.
I mean, after this, do we need to have it?
yes, and I can help you with that when we're done with the consent agenda.
Okay.
Let's come back to it.
When this is the agenda approval.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a motion and a second on the approval of the agenda. Do we have any other questions or comments? All right.
I do have a comment, one more, sorry. On the HG and for the Tanger outlet, I'm very, very pleased to see that's happening over there. And HS, I believe it is, for one Daytona, we're renewing that with police presence there. I think that'll be great. And that's it.
Which one are you talking?
8G.
Oh,
We're going to have some police presence in there in the Tanger outlet, which we already have it in the one Daytona, but I think this is going to be very nice for the area.
yeah. Yeah, it's getting busier and busier
Correct.
and busier, and more things are happening, even the incident that happened at the McDonald's. So it's good that we close. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Okay, we have no presentations tonight. We're going to move on to item number 7. This is citizen comments. During this time, citizens have the opportunity to address the city commission on any item that's on the consent agenda. My first speaker is Jenny Nazak, and on deck is John Nicholson.
everybody. Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey Avenue. This is in regard to item 8H, which is in regard to the purchase and installation of sod grass. And it's $200,000. I would say if the sod grass is for something like a golf course or regulation ball field, I would say yes. Otherwise, I would say let's refrain from that expenditure and simply allow the natural carpet of ground cover that is a multi-species natural carpet that grows everywhere. Let that be instead. It's more fiscally prudent and ecologically sound, and it's better for our quality of life too. And I would suggest instead maybe we could spend that money on replanting some oak trees, the ecological powerhouses of the world. Thank you.
And our next speaker is John Nicholson. John, before you speak, I'm gonna see if I can raise the podium a little bit.
Oh, hit the button, John, just.
Don't even start.
Very slow. I apologize.
You were raising it for John? That's first.
You need to construct a little more.
John Nicholson, 413 North Gravere Avenue. Items G, I, and M. And before I do that, I want to second what Jenny said. There's something to be said about doing natural, okay? Having signature plants, iconic plants, are of value, yes. But for the run-of-the-mill look, we're not New Jersey, we're not New York, we're not Chicago. Why are we having our plants look like we are from up north? Where are the plants that are from Florida? That's what we should be focusing on. Ferns and palms. They're like, what, 37 palms that grow in the area. We keep 3, and that's all we have. Why don't we put all the rest out there? Bethune Point now has 4 very unique palms that we have nowhere else in the city. We really need to do natural, and I think the savings on fertilizer, the savings on the fresh water, when these fertilizers go into the water and create algae, there's all kinds of benefits to what Jenny is saying. Secondly, G, the police substation, that gives us the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th substation. They're proliferating all over town. There are 3 near my house. They're 3 blocks apart. So you've got one block south of Main Street, you've got one at the Hilton, and you've got one at Seabreeze. Within 6 blocks, you have 3 substations. I think that's a lot. And people say, how could you walk at 3 o'clock in the morning? Aren't you afraid? No, it really isn't. The only problem that I see is Seabreeze, late Friday nights and late Saturday nights. Otherwise, walk all you want. So having 3 substations says something. There's a woman that's trying to get the county to put a Narcan machine right there on A1A at the Dolphin Center. To me, that sends the wrong message. Right now, they've cleared out and there's no homeless people staying at Dolphin Park. I drive past it every day. Virtually, there's no one there, or once or twice, you'll see a homeless person. To put a Narcan there would just ask them to come to that area. And what does it say when people walk by? Oh, what's that machine for? The area is full of druggies. Well, it's not, and we don't want to advertise that. Secondly, Sunnyland, why are we providing a first-class ball fields for a private school? We're not allowed to use it, because if we use it, we could damage it. So it's only used for Bethune-Cookman College. So not only do they get a nice field, they're getting a press box with it as well. They're not paying a dime. So at this point, let's take a look, see whether we need it or not. Thank you.
That's what they pay.
That was my final speaker for the consent agenda.
All right. Do we have any questions or comments? We have a motion and a second.
For
saw
We
it.
don't have a motion and a second for the consent.
Oh, we didn't?
Nope, not yet.
All right, do we have a motion?
So move.
All right, we'll take a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. We are going to move on to our public hearings. Item 9A was pulled from tonight's agenda and will be brought back in December. We're going to move on to item 9B. It's the Finance Department Emergency Ordinance amending Ordinance 2024-149, increasing the loan amount under the FDEP Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. And this is an emergency ordinance public hearing. An emergency ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, amending Ordinance 2024-149, which authorized the state revolving fund loan for lead service line inventory and replacement project, increasing the maximum loan amount authorized from $5,693,115 to $6,262,427, authorizing the budget officer to amend the budget provided for conflicts, severability, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Reed and a second from Commissioner May. Do we have any questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
We're going to move on to item 9C. It is the Growth Management and Planning Department Overlook Large-Scale Comprehensive Plan Amendment. This is an ordinance on second reading, public hearing. An ordinance adopting a large-scale comprehensive plan amendment in accordance with Chapter 163, Part 2, Florida statutes, with regard to 3.2 plus acres of property located at 100 and 101 Seabreeze Boulevard, north and south of Seabreeze Boulevard, and west of Halifax Avenue, amending the future land use element Neighborhood B development policy to allow for a greater density of development of the subject property, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner May.
And I do have
Yep.
speakers on this item, Mr. Mayor.
All right, we'll hear from the speakers.
Our first speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Emily Nice.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. I'm at this park every week, all right? There are two apartments that apparently do not have enough parking spaces because every morning there are like 15, 17 automobiles from the apartments parked in the park. I have no problem with converting the commercial to residential. It's been 30 years or more that the restaurant went under. It's been over 20 years since the map company left. So they're not putting anything down there. It might as well be apartments. But where do you put the cars? If you're going to put more apartments, there are going to be cars with those apartments. If they don't have enough, they're saying they have enough parking spaces. Well, why aren't their tenants using their parking spaces if they're parking in the park? So I'm asking that, I don't want to hurt them, but I don't want that park filled with parking cars from the overlook. The same thing with the Advent Health. They're adding 100, 200 beds and no parking. So I go there, park half a mile away, then you're going to add more cars, you're going to walk forever. So parking is an issue. Would we please clarify that they cannot use the park as overflow parking? Thank you.
Our next speaker is Emily Nice.
Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to express my support for the conversion from the commercial spaces to the residential. The building's already built. It's better use of the density. However, there has been a very long-standing issue with the dumpsters on the property, and I was very pleased that city staff were open to looking into improvements. There is an unenclosed dumpster, as you may have read in my email, with the pictures, hopefully too. An unenclosed dumpster that is just a few feet away from the Halifax River. It's on the low end of the parking lot, so it floods frequently. So this particular area is a real eyesore, of course, to not only the park visitors, but the tenants as well. So I am hopeful that city staff will find solutions. David Waller also volunteered to look for a better location for the dumpster pads, higher up on the parking lot somewhere, and maybe tucked away a little bit so that it's a much better aesthetic view for everyone involved, for residents, visitors, tenants. It's a real opportunity, and I think the owner can add a lot of value to his own property if this is enacted. Also, the north and the south dumpster areas need attention. They're very low lying, and being an animal rescuer for wildlife and domestic animals, I must say I was saddened to see that there are dolphins swimming right next to this overfilled dumpster. So I think we can do better than that, Daytona Beach.
So didn't we go through this a few years ago where we had a code ordinance thing? I think when I came to commission, we were having the same problem on A1A and Beachside. We had open dumpsters instead of enclosed dumpsters, and it was promoting feral cats and animals going through the dumpsters. Code enforcement went through and started citing some people. And then did we continue doing that?
And I'm going to remind everyone, I'm sorry to interrupt, that we need to keep it germane to the actual item, since this is a large-scale plan that's going to the state. So, yeah.
Yes, some of those dumpsters have been enclosed since then. So, yes, I look forward to seeing what kind of solutions can be implemented as part of this change. And while we're at it as well, the park underneath the Seabreeze Bridge can really use some upgrades too. There are old green toters in broken conditions, and simple fix like that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Morris or Mr. Morozak, could y'all address if we have heard back from the attorney for the overlook?
Commissioner, we can address that. I think Letitia was on point in regard to subject matter. If we hit it on the next agenda item, that's probably
Next
the better
item.
place, but I can certainly speak to it now or then, depending on what you want.
Next item.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, is
That was
it?
my final speaker for this item.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries 6-0.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 9D with the Growth Management Planning Department. This is the Overlook Third Amendment. This is an ordinance on second reading, quasi-judicial hearing. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 3.2 plus or minus acres of property located at 100 and 101 Seabreeze Boulevard, north and south of Seabreeze Boulevard, and west of Halifax Avenue from PDG Plan Development General to PDG Plan Development General. Approving the Third Amendment to the Overlook Residential Plan Unit Development Agreement to increase residential density and modify parking, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the Third Amendment and providing an effective date.
So move.
We take a motion from Commissioner Cantu and a second from Commissioner Reed. Do we have any questions or comments?
And I do have Miss Emily Nice to speak on this item.
Same comments.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And I have no other speakers.
No other speakers? All right. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Morris. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor, last time I did not introduce myself. Jim Morris, Deputy City Manager. Commissioner Strickland's question relates to the dumpster issue that Ms. Nice has raised, and we got photographs and so on from Ms. Nice. She's correct. There's an unenclosed dumpster on the north side. There's dumpsters on the south side that are in broken down old school enclosures that really won't work. Mr. Morozak and I talked this afternoon with the representative of the developer, Michael Chimento, in respect to attaching a requirement with the rezoning request to have the dumpsters located properly, enclosed properly, and done in such a way that it addresses the problems that Ms. Nice has raised and that should be compliant with city code. And there's been questions about code enforcement. To my knowledge, excuse me, there isn't a citation for it, but we can address it more quickly and cleanly through this process than we would with code enforcement. It would be a part of receiving their COs for conversion of the apartments, so there's incentive to get that done. And Mr. Chimento said that his client was agreeable. I did ask him to call back to confirm that. We did not receive that telephone call, but that was the representation made to us today. And, excuse me, it's our intention that your motion should have a condition attached to it to have that addressed as part of the COs for the project.
All right.
So do I need to amend my motion? Okay. And to include what Mr. Morse has stated.
And I amend my second.
Okay.
All right. Are you gonna be able to follow all of that?
So, if I can, it sounds like the motion would be to approve the amendment subject to the addition to the amendment of language requiring the dumpsters to be relocated into an acceptable location to the city.
To be located, to be located and screened and consistent with city code and subject to agreement from Public Works as to location for access to the dumpsters.
That sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We got a motion, we got a second. No further comments? All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are in opposition, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Okay. We're going to move on to item number 10, which is our introduction of ordinances. Item 10A is the Growth Management Planning Department, Terrace Avenue Homes, Bring Hope, Plan Development General, and Pre-Plat. This is an introduction of an ordinance on first reading. An ordinance amending the zoning map of the Land Development Code to rezone 0.74 plus or minus acres of property located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Bellevue Avenue and Terrace Avenue from single-family residential to Plan Development General, approving the Terrace Avenue Homes Bring Hope Plan District Agreement to allow for development of a 6-lot affordable single-family residential subdivision, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement, approving the preliminary plat for the Terrace Avenue subdivision, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date. And are there any questions or comments from the commission on this item?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So the public hearing and final action is set for December 4th. I'm going to move on to item number 11, which is our administrative item. Item 11 is the City Manager's Office proposed list of 2025 state and federal legislative priorities. Mr. Hardy Smith to present, and I'll go ahead and read the title into the record. A resolution approving state legislative and federal issues as priorities for fiscal year 2025 and providing an effective date. And Mr. Smith to report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the commission. Hardy Smith, Government Relations Administrator for the city. Before you tonight is a proposed list of state and federal legislative priorities for the year ahead. This is an annual process, of course, for your discussion and then final approval on whatever you deem the list should be. There will be quite a number of very familiar topics as priorities from the past that continue to go forward. Flooding, homelessness, affordable housing, those issues never go away. So those are always have been, and I would imagine continue to be priorities for the city. So Mayor, I'll be glad to entertain any questions that the board may have.
Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Commissioner Canty.
Okay, so our first priority on there is we have 178 lift stations, and we're asking for 87 backup generators, which I think is excellent. We need that. Yeah. And I've already asked, I guess the money is already programmed for half the cost that we would have to pay. But there is something else I would like to add on there. If you notice during our hurricanes and rain events, a normal rain event over at the Public Works compound, can you show those pictures? And I know Drew showed a few of them before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So our men and women work in that. I mean, and so there was something else I would like to add on there if you can keep going through them. For the Public Works compound, if we could add addition to that, which will elevate, and then they also can bring utilities over from the marina when we're having hurricanes and when they're working through this, because there's no way they should be working through this. And I would hope you guys would agree.
What do you?
But I don't understand, what do you mean they would lift that?
Well, can we, there are elevate, because we have part of it. Andy, could you come out for me? Part of it doesn't flood as is, but they need more room.
Good evening, Andy Holmes, Assistant City Manager for Infrastructure. I think the one answer that we've kicked around as staff, and Commissioner Cantu is talking about it, is to put an addition on the main administration building out at Public Works. That building does not flood. The floor is elevated above the flood zone in that area. And that would allow us to move staff out of those flooded buildings that you see in the picture and into that main building. And it would also enable us to bring utilities administration over from the marina property over onto the Public Works campus. And we think that would be a good comprehensive solution that would enable us to lease that marina facility that is currently occupied by utilities. That's just one idea. It's not, it's not the only idea that would fix part of this, but it is an idea that may have some merit for consideration, so.
And it's something I asked when Drew showed those pictures. I was like, oh my gosh, how are they working in that kind of condition? And so that's something I would like to put on there. And
But what are you suggesting that you put on there is what I'm trying to figure out. Just.
It would be a building addition.
It's a building addition.
To provide
and
additional
the state
space.
would provide
Correct.
funding for that.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
Total size around 20,000 square feet and total cost around $10 million. But we can bring back more specifics if this commission would like us to do that.
Now, I don't want to say that I want to just pay $10 million, because I don't want us to, if they give us the money, yes.
Understood.
But I'm not
That's-
trying to
There may be
budget
And
anything in that type of range, because we've got to start thinking, if we get money in the future, how we gonna pay for fixing the flooding situation?
Understood.
That's the number one priority that we need to have in our mind.
And Mayor,
Yeah.
not to interrupt you, but I have had talks with some of our state house and senators, and anytime you get appropriation, you always have to have some kind of match. But that's why I'm asking if we can go to the state and ask for this money. And I'm willing to go if you guys.
Well, yeah, we're willing to have you to go and let you go, and we want it on the list.
Okay,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Can I just ask how it addresses the cars going in and out? If we add to the building, there's still the rest of the area is flooded, so how are they going to get in and out?
Well,
There are access issues during floods. That's something we are overcoming now. We have staff park in other areas of the city that don't flood and bring them to work. I mean, in a hurricane situation, a flooding situation, we're making all kinds of adjustments to make it work. But not making it work is not an option. But we do have ways of overcoming those challenges.
So we don't want a building that's up, water up to their knees and they're working, inside that building as well.
it's just a complex situation, because you have to be concerned about whatever you do. You don't want to enhance or exacerbate the existing problem. Even building a new building, does that, what does that do? But the number one priority is having money to fix the problem. It's not just, because even if they give us $10 million to build a building, I'd rather the $10 million for something else, honestly. But they give you $10 million to build a building, you take that, but we need the money to fix the problem. But I understand the point. So they give us the money, we have to figure out.
I mean, the emergency generators, I think we need
Number one. Yeah.
But this is something that I would advocate as well.
Mhm.
And we haven't received anything yet, so.
Okay.
Get what I'm saying?
I got you.
Okay.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the commission, let's get real. A $10 million ask means a $5 million match. They're looking at about 50%.
Well, that's
So they're not,
what I'm concerned about.
we're not likely, doesn't mean you can't try, but we're not likely to get a $10 million appropriation for the city of Daytona Beach. That is major. Now, there could be other avenues because we did get, Mr. Manager, about $10 million for a new fire station. That wasn't through the appropriations process. That was through the grant funding process. So there are quite often other avenues to make something happen. But you should expect, if you're going to ask for 10, get ready to pay 5.
And Hardy, I understand what you're saying, but how much money have you gotten us in the last 4 years since I've been up here with appropriations?
I'm going to try to be respectful.
Oh, I'm being
But-
respectful,
but
I'm just asking.
Yes,
And I
yes,
have
ma'am.
talked-
I'm gonna
I
answer your
have-
question.
I have talked to them.
I'm gonna answer your
And
question.
usually it is a 50% match, but if we can't come up with 50%, I mean, I have sat down with a few of our state reps and senators regarding this, and I think it's something that we can push. And sometimes you can't come up with a 50% match, and I have talked to them about that as well, maybe a 30% match. So I completely understand what you're saying from there.
Well, on the question that's been posed, and I think you deserve a real answer. The city of Daytona Beach, in the last 2 years, have had appropriations requests that the mayor's been involved in positioning those requests. The city manager's been involved in positioning those requests. We've had the legislative leadership in place to make things happen, and the ability to say, yes, we will make these things happen. There has been a political dynamic that has existed during this past 2 years that essentially says, or has created a situation that says any request from the city of Daytona Beach, not Daytona Beach community, but the city of Daytona Beach, is a non-starter, dead on arrival. The political dynamic, and I know there's been questions about effectiveness of lobbyists, and been effectiveness of me. And that's fine, that's all fair. But I'm gonna tell you, share with you.
And Mr. Hardy,
that,
since I've been up there, I have never mentioned your name up here once.
well,
I
yes, ma'am.
mentioned our
Okay,
lobbyists.
just let him tell us.
The point that I want to effectively communicate is, unless the political dynamic that exists, and it exists here within this organization internally, it exists in Tallahassee, it exists between here and Tallahassee. And the players involved, unless the dynamic changes, unless the people in that dynamic change, it doesn't matter who your lobbyist is, because there is no to Daytona Beach.
Is there anything from your experience that we on our part could do to affect that relationship in a better way?
There are individuals involved, and we've been told until the makeup of those individuals change, it's not changing. Now, we're hopeful. We've had conversation about the session ahead, and we're hopeful that some of that dynamic may ease up just a little bit, but the dynamic affects the entire delegation. It affects the governor's office. And that's affecting us.
That Daytona Beach is having this much of an impact at a state level that we cannot overcome. It's transactional. It's we need this, they give us this. Are we saying we cannot seem to get beyond personalities?
Commissioner, what I'm sharing with you is the reality of what we have been told for the past 2 sessions, when on paper, we should have had some major home runs.
Mr. Hardy, who
it's not
who
happening.
have you been told this?
It's public information.
And who?
We've been told by the previous appropriations chair.
Okay.
We've heard this, we've had this message from the governor's office. That
But,
it's,
Mr. Hardy, I am asking my colleagues up here if
Yes.
they mind if I ask for this stuff. And I've had
Sure.
some talks, and I think this could happen for the city of Daytona Beach.
it's your list.
Of course, put it on the list, I've already said it.
Okay.
But I do agree, I understand what Hardy's saying. I know everyone may not agree or think that that's real. It's been real, and I can tell you things, but I don't bother anybody. I don't bother other people. There are those who have influence and control money, and they don't always control the money based on what's best for the people. It's just that simple. So,
Mayor, may I?
yeah.
Hardy, once the list is approved, this is when we could go and advocate for the city, correct? Because we have to agree as a whole what we want to advocate for, and once the list is approved, you could go, I could go, Ken could go, Commissioner Strickland, we could all go and advocate for these things, correct?
Yes, and the process is with the commission's final approval on the appropriations items, we then began the appropriations submission process. So there will be a process, and the House and the Senate have different processes. It's a little bit different. But we will get very involved in that process, filling out the information forms for both House and the Senate. And the key piece of information to know is each funding, now every session is different, so we haven't had the rules yet for this next session. But history says, Mayor and Commissioners, that each appropriations request is a standalone request. And each request to the House, to the Senate, takes a House sponsor and a Senate sponsor. So there would be meetings with our legislative delegation to ask for that sponsorship.
Okay, just so you know, I have both sponsorships for both of them.
That's good.
Okay.
But we haven't decided on what we're doing, so what did you get a
No,
sponsorship for?
on the one that we had, I've already asked. If we don't agree, then we don't do it.
She's working ahead of the
Yes.
table.
And you should always start ahead and work, because they just got sworn in yesterday, and you need to talk, because everybody's talking to them.
Yeah.
I understand, but we all have to agree on what we're
We-
advocating.
No, you can
that's why we're
advocate
here.
ahead of time, though, Commissioner. Don't
We
be-
can? Okay.
Yeah, you go and talk to the folks and assume that we're gonna have a
And then you
list
come
that
up here.
includes those things.
Right. And then you come up here and
Yeah, and
ask.
you come up here and ask after the fact. But don't be green. Go out and be political and be engaged and talk. Don't assume that, if you got something you want to accomplish and you got folks that can help you, go out and talk to them ahead of time. So, yeah.
I just don't want to speak on something that we haven't all agreed on, but okay.
No, you can still speak on it, even if we don't agree on it, then you come back and convince us. Okay, we're not gonna be silly.
Thank you.
And
If
all
we got
you're
a road
doing-
to get
all
some
you're
money,
doing-
we're gonna take it.
All you're doing is talking to make
Yeah.
sure you have the House, you have the Senate to sponsor your bill. And if they give you the green light, then you come up and ask your colleagues if they agree. Get ahead of the game,
Yeah.
because it moves fast.
Get ahead of the game, yeah. Okay. All right, do we have any other questions?
I did have one member of the public to sign up to speak, Mr. John Nicholson.
Okay.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granbury Avenue. 30 years ago, I had a conversation with Jim Cameron at the Chamber. I had noticed that we had raised $107 million in sales tax, and we got back $5 million. So we're losing $100 million a year. And I asked him, I said, well, why don't we go and ask to balance this out? And he said, they'll never do it. If you never ask, you'll never get. So I'm asking you to bother them, the heck out of them, and ask every year for equality. We have tourists. 10 million tourists are coming to Volusia County. A large number of those use our roads, our sidewalks, our infrastructure. We need our sales tax to keep ahead of the game. All right? We are a donor city. I just talked to the county yesterday. Showed them that what I gave you the last time. Echo, Volusia Forever. We raised $19 million in Volusia Forever and didn't get a dime back. We raised $12 million on Florida Forever, and we got $840,000 back. We're a donor city. It's $5 billion that the Daytona Beach has given to the rest of Florida since I moved to Daytona Beach. Now, $5 billion doesn't sound like a lot to you guys, but a lot can be done with $5 billion. $100 million a year is a tremendous amount of dollars. And if you never ask, it's on your backs, all right? We need that. My other one is school board. The school board is underwater every year. They decided, oh, well, if you have an ocean, people will want to live in your city so you don't have to pay them a lot. So they cut the funding for Volusia County and several others. I'm asking you to ask that they reconfigure that because we're losing $14 million a year to our schools. And our children need that money. So I know this is appropriations, et cetera, but money's money, and we need our fair share. Thank you.
And
That was my only speaker who signed up.
I have one more question. The delegation is coming up, and if you don't mind, I would like to go there and actually speak on a behalf as well.
Yes.
Okay.
May I join her? Or is it only one person?
Anyone can go, but only a,
The city only gets 3 minutes.
Correct.
To make their presentation, so we have, really only could have one representative. Hardy and Drew do attend the meeting. Last year, I provided the 3 minutes, but have stated that if Commissioner Cantu does it at the request of the commission, or if Drew Driscoll will do it at the request of the commission. But it's only 3 minutes.
This is the one in January that's coming up?
January 7th. January 7th is the delegation.
But you can be in attendance, yeah, but yeah. We do have only 3 minutes. Hardy will prepare the document, fill out the appropriate information, and they give you 3 minutes to speak. So if you all are requesting Commissioner Cantu to do that, you have to vote on it tonight.
Do you want to do that? You want to speak and you want to be the person?
you
that
know, I don't like to
present
speak,
them?
but I want to speak because we haven't had appropriations in a long time.
Are you all, I'm not opposed to that. You know, I'm good with it. She's making a point and sends an information.
So I will need a motion.
Well, somebody else has to make a motion.
Hold on. Yeah, if you delegate that authority to one of the commissioners to speak for you, then the commissioner has to exercise that authority in the sunshine. If on the other hand, the commissioner just says, I want to go speak, if there's no objections, you haven't delegated that authority, then you don't have a sunshine issue. But a formal delegation would require the commissioner to address the legislature in a, you wouldn't be able to do it. You couldn't meet the sunshine law requirements for this.
The delegation is advertised. We do have other elected officials that get up there and speak.
Right. So we're not talking about whether you get up and speak. We're talking about whether the commission formally delegates that responsibility.
Gotcha.
Well, you can work with the staff, and the staff can work with you. You know, y'all can work out a presentation that works for them. But you have to work with the staff. Okay?
Sure.
All right.
And Mayor, I have a sense that there's an unresolved item, so I know there's an action to be taken here at the end of the conversation. But I'm just jumping ahead to conversations with members of the delegation on, you know, bill support and all that, filling out forms. So if there's an ask for a $10 million public works building, are we committing to a $5 million up to a $5 million match potentially? Because that's on the form. They're going to ask you.
It is that, yeah.
So when you sign the form, you're committed.
That was my issue, because I knew it was when I said that, in terms of what's the priority. You know,
And if we did a 30% match, do we have?
10% would 10% would be $1 million, right? So 20% would be 2 million. 30% would be $3 million.
I mean,
Is that math right?
It normally asks for 50%.
50, but they do sometimes do 30%.
Yeah, but what if they don't, and what happens if we don't, you know, we're basically saying tonight that we are committed to paying $5 million to elevate that
Do
parcel.
they, we're adding an addition to there to move, to elevate it and to move utilities over there as well to open up the marina. Do they have money in their public works?
It's not a question of money. It is a question relative to the appearance of the situation. That's the key. As the mayor has stated, the surrounding communities will flood. And will we want to put $5 to $10 million into the infrastructure is what I just heard, or into that building? That's the key. That's the ultimate key from a perspective.
Is it really worth $15 million, basically, when you're not really solving the problem? You know.
Can you answer that?
He thinks it's worth it.
I mean, you think it?
He's because those are his people.
I mean,
Well,
right.
he has two folks.
I mean, but what do
He's
you?
talked about it where he stated that he understands the
Right.
issues, but if they're gonna give the money, but like I said, it's.
I mean, I have actually showed these pictures to our representatives and senators, and they were like very surprised too. I mean, so if we
But
don't
I would,
ask,
you
if we
know,
don't ask, but
But I would rather they help us with the flooding issue. Is there a way for us to say, you know?
well, what specifically do you think to help us with the flooding situation?
Those generators, that's number one.
Generators, I believe, yes, I agree with that, but don't see why we can't put 2 appropriation bills in.
Okay,
I just wanted to address the match.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Andy Holmes, Assistant City Manager for Infrastructure. I just wanted to address the match issue. The Utilities Department currently pays nearly $150,000 in rent, and that amount of money annually would fund about a 30% match for the project all by itself, with no change in the expenditure that Utilities is making. So I think there's an opportunity to at least commit to a 30% match on the
Just
$10 million
without changing the
project
budget.
without changing the budget at all. And you know, solid waste runs a surplus. That's part of Public Works. There may be some money available there to fund additional match. I don't think $5 million sounds pretty daunting, especially for an imperfect solution, but if we look at it in pieces, it's not nearly as bad. So I don't know that I could put $5 million together out of my shirt pocket tonight, but I know I can put $3+ million without changing the budget.
Well, that's a big deal. That's a big, because we probably would have said to 3 million, maybe we might have agreed to it. So if you believe that, I think then you should put it on there.
I also recognize it's not a perfect solution, but if we wait and try to find a perfect solution, I fear we may never find any solution. And I think we would be more effective at dealing with the storm issues in a facility where we can keep our people dry as they work. That's just something to think about. So, thank you.
All right. Okay. That makes sense. Does anybody have a comment on that? About what he said, or questions about what he said?
So you're saying that utilities is paying $150,000 in rent a year?
Correct. Right now in the marina facility, and they would vacate that facility and occupy the new facility, the new.
So how did we get to 3 million from 150,000?
Because you're gonna.
Because if you borrowed the money, a bond issue, that 150,000 would defray the cost of roughly $3 million.
So we have to take a loan?
Yes.
Okay. So
But that revenue would represent the payment on that loan. And we are expending that annually, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That gives me a different perspective.
Much different.
Yeah, much different. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, much different from me also. That's what I needed to hear. Yeah, makes me comfortable. Any other questions, comments? Okay, are we in agreement then that we would agree to allow for both of those to be on the list?
I'm not in agreement. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Okay, no problem. Anyone else not in agreement?
We're talking about the generators?
Generator and the
Microphone.
list that, to do the public works building.
I'm good with the generators.
Not with the public works building? Okay.
I'm good with the generators, not the public works.
Why might I ask, are you all not?
Because I'm seeing your point about if they had to make a choice in terms of appropriations, which way they got, prefer they put the money into flood mitigation for us if possible. If we can get both, fantastic, give us both.
Yeah, and if you know how Tallahassee works, you're better to have 2 appropriations or more
Okay.
than just one.
So the possibility, thank you for explaining that to me.
You're welcome.
So the possibility exists that we can get more than one at a particular time. Is that right? Thank you.
Well, the possibility does exist, and I don't, I don't pretend to know how they work, because I don't agree with how they work all the time, but.
I mean, we
but
could get both, but
yeah.
I'm telling you, it looks better more than one.
I appreciate your confidence in that. Thank you. It warms my heart. I think that's good. I think that's good.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, members of the commission, if it would help, this suggestion, I agree with Commissioner Cantu. My suggestion would be, I'm hearing a half consensus right now, that generators would be number 1 and public works would be number 2. So if we have that information, that's all the positioning we need. So it's a tournament, it's a money tournament. So one may go further in the tournament than the other might be vice versa. But if we know your preference of which one is number 1 and which one is number 2, that makes it very clear and is not muddling the process at all. So, and we can just take that and it doesn't hurt to ask.
So if one dies in the committee, we still got a chance with another one going through. On the committee.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
If that's the case, then we could find some money to figure out how we could have some stormwater storage, right? That's where I'm at. Not that I'm
That's
saying
gonna-
that,
If I,
Excuse me?
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Stormwater storage, were you talking about for Fairway Estates and?
I'm talking for all of the area that
Okay,
floods,
but that's
Midtown,
something
from Bellevue to
The
Bevel.
state, this is
okay.
state appropriation, you're talking more about federal appropriations. And I think that's why the Army Corps engineer is here right now, and General Ernie O'Dana and Michael Walsh did. So they're looking at all that and possibilities of some storm drainage. So I think it's actually a total separate issue from state and federal right now.
You know what? Upon consideration, I absolutely am appreciating Commissioner Cantu's back work, knowing Tallahassee, speaking to senators, and I think we should utilize that. And we should just go for it. I think we should give her the 3 minutes. let her have at it and hope for the success that, just hope for that from a relational place. Maybe she has a better understanding of the relationships and gets along better with the people in Tallahassee on a personal level. Maybe there's more commonalities there with them. That I think it's a really good thing for us to just move forward with that, actually. So I support you in that.
Thank you,
Support you. If you want to invite us to attend and just sit in the audience, we're happy to support you with that too. I think Ms. Paris would love to
Actually,
go.
it would be
it's a
great
public
for
meeting.
everyone to be in the
Perfect.
audience,
Yeah.
sitting there, showing unity.
So you're supporting you.
Daytona is asking for this. land.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good idea.
Okay. All right, so,
I still think we need a Plan B for U.S. Army Corps of Engineers study, if we could do something in the interim to mitigate stormwater. That's where I stand with that.
okay. And you too? No further comment? Okay, do we need to vote on this item is my question.
Yes.
What, Commissioner Reed, what do you think?
Yeah, there was no motion
I
on.
know,
yeah,
but,
okay.
but I gotta get to a point where I have
I'm for both, now that I've heard Andy's perspective on how funding could be
okay.
supported.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
It seems like it's very much relational based and personality based, so that's interesting to me.
Commissioner May? Yes.
Okay. It is. That's politics. Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? All right, do we need a motion?
Please.
With adding on
Adding the 2 and,
addition to,
yes. All right, got a motion, we have a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye. Aye. Those who are opposed, same sign.
No.
All right, the motion carries 4-2.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Good luck.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 11B. It's the Economic and Strategic Opportunities Department, non-binding term sheet for sale of 777 Main Street. This is a resolution. A resolution approving a non-binding term sheet setting forth key terms for Savage Craft Ale Works purchase of the former Corbin Building at 777 Main Street, including purchase price and development requirements, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the term sheet and providing an effective date.
so move.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second, and we have a great presentation coming up.
And then I,
Hopefully it's great. Xavier, can you put up the presentation?
Check on my people.
All right. Jeff Brown, who serves as our Economic Development Director, was not able to be here and do a PowerPoint, so I did my best on yesterday to put something together. Hopefully it will present what the Main Street, the Main Street CRA has wanted to do for many years. But the purpose of this presentation, and I know that Mr. Merrill and Jessica Gower are also here that may have some comments, but the opportunity the city of Daytona Beach has to develop an experience creating a unique destination for residents and visitors, as was done in South Carolina, is essential. They have done adaptive reuse on a former fire station, city hall, and jail in South Carolina. The work that has been done by veterans of all, individual who was transitioning out of the military, was trying to figure out what was his next steps. And this was the process of the next steps of creating Savage Craft. And as you can see from the images, he has done a transformative work in the building in Columbia that he wants to do here in Daytona Beach. Ben Gross's staff, Jeff Brown, Ken, and members of his team with the Main Street redevelopment, they have been working very hard to really implement this plan of action. And you can see the work. If you don't think that this individual was serious about it, if you look at those particular buildings and see the transformative work that took place, it's amazing of what he's trying to do here. I want you all to be mindful that this is a term sheet type project. This is not a contract. And I know that Mr. Gross and also Kira Ansley, who does our contracts, will be able to explain some of the key factors if necessary here today. So what the opportunity consists of for you all, and please excuse any errors that might be in here, of trying to work on this PowerPoint without Jeff was something that I had to do last night. Thanks, he did provide the information, so I'm appreciative. The city purchased the property at 777 Main Street for about $3.1 million to support that revitalization. The acquisition is part of the city's plan to revigorate the Main Street corridor. And by taking the 777 Main Street, the city will be able to direct what happens. That's the key thing that I think is important. By us selling the property, we're able to say exactly what should take place on that corridor. Many individuals wanted the whole food hall concept, different type of areas, but this particular developer came in and said this was the essential thing that he could do. And when we had individuals, we had 4 or 5 individuals that made a discussion about what they wanted to do, but this was the only developer that decided to submit a plan for this property. The term sheet highlights the city's goals for the property, including attracting a restaurant, bar, event space, and music venue to draw visitors and locals to the Main Street corridor. The tenant is dedicated to these 4 areas, which I think is essential for our area. A full-service establishment that serves a variety of high-quality, freshly prepared meals, a bar that serves a selection of their craft beers, cocktails, wines, and a social setting and relaxation, the event space for rentals, for corporate functions, live music performances, and then the music venue that is dedicated space that will host live musical performance featuring a stage and sound systems. So the 4 elements that we're trying to attract to the Main Street corridor is essential for that particular area to develop beyond just the basic bike weeks or the first Fridays. What he's trying to do is bring something to our community that is a 7 days a week type activity. What I like, which is unique, and Mr. Thomas, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Stallworth actually visited the location, is that they're not an all-night bar. They're not a 2 a.m. in the morning bar, loud music. They really want to make sure that there's a family atmosphere that's associated with it. And they have I think it's called the Bar Kitty Garden or something like that, that if you're under 21, there's a certain area that you enjoy with your family, and then they have a certain area where it's 21 and older, that they are the only individuals that can be in that area. So it is not something that is similar, just situated around an older crowd, but it's for an entire family atmosphere that he's trying to bring to our area. And so I think Kira, is Kira here, Mr. Gross? Is she?
She is.
Okay, Kira. One of the key things I wanted to just give the property purchase price milestones, and Kira and Ben are here that can talk about how this process works in regards to after 10 years what would take place. But after the closing date, property purchase for $2 million. So Kira, if you could just go to those salient points.
So Kira Hans is one of our assistant city attorneys, and as Mr. Fietcher said, she does most of our contracts in the office.
So the way the terms are framed are through milestones and objectives. The purchase price is set at $2 million if they meet their first milestones, which is getting their certificate of occupancy within 24 months. If they don't receive their certificate of occupancy at that point in time, there is a fee or a fee of $250,000 that would be due within 30 days. That amount increases for each 12 months that they don't receive their certificate of occupancy, up to 48 months, which would be a purchase price of $3 million. Then the next milestone goals is in operations. They'll actually, when we close on the property, they'll give us a promissory note for the $2 million. We will defer payments for 10 years. At the 10-year anniversary, if they have met milestones such as being in operations 5 days at minimum, 5 days a week, 52 weeks a year, outside of hurricanes and other kind of calamities that may occur, and increase the property value by $30,000, then they would pay us $250,000. They would defer $250,000. They would be relieved of $250,000. If they don't make those milestones, they have to pay the total amount. The next payment increment is at the 15-year mark. Similar milestone obligations deferment and cancellation of payment. And then again, finally, at the 20-year mark, they would pay the full amount with deferment or delay or cancellation of a portion of the note.
And what we see in this particular item is that the economic impact to the community will really elevate, and we will see more business owners. We're hoping to actually open up because of this. Some of the things you will see is the property transfer, the construction. I wanted to really say is that the transfer of the property, which is key, which Cure has really put in place in the last couple of years, working with the things that Ben has really said that which should be key is that the property will not transfer until Savage Craft receives all of their necessary approvals and the lending commitments to commence construction of the intended use. So we will know when we bring back the contract, if they have the funds to do it, they're going to have to be mandated to make a $3 million investment into the property. So if they don't make that investment into the property, they're going to be paying the full price, technically, for this. The key points of the agreement: Savage Craft will provide the city with preferred rights to use a portion of the second floor of the property during non-peak times for events held by the city and the Peabody. That's been one of the things that not only the Peabody but the Ocean Center has talked about, having a designated space. We will work with them. All of these will not just be free. They're not donating them to us, but we have the ability to promote events. We'll promote Savage Craft as a great place in our events. The mutual benefit portion of the property events, while also promoting Savage Craft as a support of the Peabody Auditorium. One of the key things is that we'll see an increase in tax revenues from the county and the city coming back to our community, where we're now about 22 to 24,000. We'll see at build out about 55 to 56,000 coming in taxable value back from to the city and the county that will go to the CRA. But the economic impact surrounding that area, the improvement of that property, will be something that will be great for us. And so I know Angela and her team and the Main Street corridor will be happy, as well as those boards. So this is it. It's about transforming our Main Street corridor. The property on the bottom has been sitting there for many years. What the developers of Savage Craft at the top, they want to bring something similar to our area. If you have read some of the articles, they've had the support of the governor, the local administration, the city commission, and the appointed officials have said they are great corporate partners for your community. And I'm hoping that you would allow for the city to move forward with this term sheet and actually bring back a contract to you once they're able to find the financing. And I know that Rob and Jessica may want to come up here and say something before we allow for more questions from the elected officials and from staff.
Mayor, Commissioner Rob Merrill with the Cobb Cole Law Firm, 1 Daytona Boulevard. Great job doing your own PowerPoint, and very, very well done. I think you guys know that I normally respect your time, and we've got a lot of projects that we process through the City Commission, and I normally try to talk to you guys if I can, if you have any questions, and then answer any questions you have when we have a meeting like this. But I want to start by saying that Andrew Baumgartner, who was not able to be here and wanted to send his apologies. He had a pretty serious conflict come up, but he assured me that he wanted to make himself available to you guys to meet one-on-one between now and when you actually have a contract presented to you. Again, I think this is an introductory conversation to continue it to the place where it will be something that will be an agenda item that you guys can say yay or nay to. And he will be here, he assured me, when that happens. So again, apologies from him. And I will say that, Mr. Manager, thank you for characterizing Andrew the way you did and presenting what he did in South Carolina. I've shared some of those materials with you guys, including some references to meetings with the governor, bills that he was a part of signing as a result of what he's done up there. He's had some great successes. But I also wanted to say to you guys, which I do sometimes, this one's kind of personal, not just to me, but definitely to me and to, I think, most of you guys and some folks that are here. At one point, this was our Main Street, a Main Street that you would think, you'd be proud of and would be a functioning, year-round, day-to-day place. My granddad, Robert Merrill Sr., had his bank here at the old Bank and Blues Club. You guys may know that. He was the president of Security First Federal Savings and Loan for many years, even before I was born, but into, I think, the early 70s. And so I watched my grandfather go to work every day on Main Street. And I had a lot of experiences myself there along Main Street, including when I became a lawyer with Cobb Cole in the mid-1980s. A couple of the partners would take me to Kay's Coach House. I don't know if you guys ever remember that, and I'm probably older than some of you, but it was an operating restaurant that was a really cool place to go to lunch. Those opportunities, a functioning bank and restaurants and things like that have been few and far between since the 1970s. God bless the folks that have stayed in there, like Helen Humphreys, with their jewelry store, and my barber, Ken, at Main Street Barber, who I go to whenever I need to. They're still hanging in there. But I truly believe, and I think the manager and I think the team of folks from your side that have brought you this term sheet truly believe that someone like Andrew Baumgartner coming in and doing what he did in South Carolina on Main Street, on our Main Street, is going to change this place. It's going to change Main Street, and it's going to be the same kind of thing you see happening on Beach Street when the mall was built in the early 1970s and everybody left. We're here with an opportunity just like that. So the Brown and Browns and the CC and Hyatt Brown improvements that were made to the park, and now the Framework Group building their apartment building in downtown, I think is starting that transformational development right now, and this will do that to Main Street, I believe, and my heart's in it too. I mean, I'm here as a representative of the developer that I think has shown you guys has a great track record. I think in some of the materials I shared with you have been some time ago, because when he came to me, it was, I think, more than 2 years ago. And I've been chomping at the bit to be able to bring it out and have it be a reality. But in the meantime, I think I've given you guys some materials that he shared with me along the way, and I'm happy to share more. But you can start by just looking at his website and seeing what happened on this piece of property in South Carolina, and how their Riverwalk area completely transformed as a result of him investing. And this is, as the manager has said, a significant investment for this gentleman and his company. So unless he spends that $3 million to make this a better building and a better project, the deal doesn't come together. So I think what your staff has done, including your city attorney's office, the manager, and everyone else involved, is a great deal for everybody. This is one of those deals that is a win-win. I know I'm not supposed to say that term without giving Glenn Storch $50 or something, but I do think this actually fits as a win-win. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you guys have to the extent that I can. My partner, John Ferguson, who's a business lawyer and has been with our firm for almost as long as I have, has actually worked with your staff to come up with the term sheet, and he'll be working on the actual contract with your staff as well. But I'll do my best to try to answer any questions you guys have.
I don't have questions for you, but I do have questions for Kara.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for Rob?
Yep.
No questions.
Thank you for humoring me.
Thank you.
Kara, did you do this contract?
I assisted with the drafting of the term sheet, yes, ma'am.
Because you did very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. To me, personally, I thought you did. But I did have a few questions. So I know we purchased the building in 2023 for $3.1 million, which we're going to sell it for $2 million, but they have to put $3 million in for renovations.
Correct.
Okay. Now, before they get a CO issued, so 36 months, if they don't get their CO, the price goes to $2.5 million?
Okay, it's an incremental, so.
And then 48 months, it'll be $3 million?
Could you go back to the slide?
Yes.
But do they have to actually still do the $3 million, if the price goes up, the $3 million renovation?
Yes, the
That's
minute,
what I
yes,
wanted
they
to know.
do that regardless.
Okay. And plus, I am actually excited to see something happen in that building and get it back on the tax roll. So
And that's part of the incentive of
Yes.
meeting the milestones early, is
Yeah.
that they don't have that extra cost associated with.
Right. And you did a great job. Yeah. Thank you.
I just wanted to commend Kara as well. And I envision it being thriving and somewhere where all of us would want to go as well as our visitors. I like it.
Go around the room, I think it was your turn, and I didn't want to be rude to a woman.
You'll be rude to me, but not to a woman.
Oh, gosh, yeah, you're fair game, so's PH.
Go ahead.
And the city attorney.
Special.
We had some people go up there, my understanding, I think Jeff and a couple others went. Ken went. I've been to this place personally. We'll do well to have that on Main Street. We don't have anything like that on Main Street, never have, and I think it'll create an atmosphere where the people that are there will have to up their game and change their business plan. The discussions that I had with this person was that they're not even looking at Bike Week and Biketoberfest in their business plan. They're looking at hotels as well as the Peabody and the Ocean Center. So hopefully we'll vote to put this in there. And I think if we don't, we're looking at another 20 or 30 years of what we've had for the last 20 or 30 years.
Thank you. Commish?
And one other thing, I did do my own little research and background on the owner of that's going to purchase this. Very impressive.
Just want to say, I know Jeff is listening. Jeff Brown worked with Cobco's attorney and Kira to put these term sheets together. They went back and forth for a while on these items, and just really thank him who came down with a sickness for working with Kira to get this to the table.
Oh, thank you for acknowledging him. Anyone else? No other comments?
I do have public speakers.
We'll hear from the public.
Okay, our first speaker is Jim Sweeney, and on deck is John Nicholson.
Hello, my name is Jim Sweeney, 20 North Halifax, just 2 doors north of Main Street, in that Main Street corridor. And I support Main Street and Mr. Baumgartner. My only issue is that we spent $3 million to sell it for $2 million, and at the end of the day, it's another bar on Main Street, although this one is spectacular and I'm all for it. But there also appears to be a lot of ifs, you know, if they're open 5 days, and then if they are 10 years and 15 years and 20 years. So, you know, there's all these different payment scenarios. So while at the end of the day, I do support it, and I hope everything goes well. The Main Street corridor needs it. But I'm here tonight as well to talk in public comments, and I ask you to stick around because I want to discuss a business and a property where there are no ifs, and there's no expense to the city whatsoever. And I appreciate your time, and go Main Street.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson, and on deck is Sandy Murphy.
John Nicholson, 413 North Granview Avenue. I lived down the street for 40 years. I saw when Main Street was busy and saw it decline. When Teresa sold her properties, it created an ideal situation for change, all right? I don't understand all the finagling with the purchase price, et cetera. I'm accustomed to TIF funds. We gave $10 million to all of our hotels, $8 million to the shops. Why couldn't, if he's having a hard time raising funds, why not TIF? That would be the easiest thing to do. But it's solved. He's going in. I hope you all will vote for it. As you know, I ran the largest dance clubs in Miami. So I'm accustomed to seeing large numbers of people. Not quite Bike Week every Wednesday night, but close to it. This has the potential because we have 10 million tourists a block away. We have a beach a block away. We have an ocean center next door. We have the Peabody next door. All of these things are a given for a successful place. This gentleman should make a ton of money. And if he does, it will change Main Street for the better. So I'm asking you to okay this. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sandy Murphy, and on deck is William Biddorf.
Good evening, Sandy Murphy, 136 Park Avenue. I want to speak in favor of you approving this proposal. This is the kind of business that we have needed for a very long time on Main Street, and it's in the perfect spot because it can create a hub from which development can go east and west and really serve as that core, that kind of light that beckons you from A1A to tell you that something is going on up on this street and you should see what it is. It's finally a business that I think will be complementary to the Peabody and the Ocean Center, and that can draw those families that we have there all the time, and yet they never seem to transfer their business onto Main Street. I think this brings an opportunity to get them over there and also to see what the other businesses on Main Street have to offer. It will be family friendly. It'll be active 52 weeks out of the year, which is critical. And I think the staff really, I mirror those commendations in terms of what the staff did. They worked for a long, long time on this project, and they've come up with a very good balance of incentives and of milestone requirements so that the city isn't the only one out there laying out funds. We're protected, and as long as the developer does his work, he's protected too. And I think that's about the best that we could hope for. It's very exciting, and I hope you'll vote in favor.
Absolutely.
My final speaker is William Biddorf.
It's a hard one to follow. It was nice. My name is William Biddorf. I'm a proud resident of Daytona Beach at 4002 East International Speedway Boulevard. I'm proud to sit here in front of you tonight. I'm very proud of seeing this development hopefully happening in our city, as I'm sure this commission is going to bring in a lot more developments like this. The one thing I do see is that this could be an example of other developers coming in here. If this works, it's going to really mold our city into something I believe we want it to be. So I urge you to think it over. I know that you know the ins and outs, what the costs are, because everything is it's what you see. It's not what you make. It's what you save at the end. It's what you keep. I think it's a great investment for our city, but I'm not sitting in your seat. It's your decision, but I think you're going to make the right decision. Anyway, respect all of you, and thank you for listening.
I have one additional speaker, Mr. Mayor, Miss Jenny Nazak.
Jenny Nazak, 501 Harvey. You think after living here all this time I would get the sign-up sheets right? But all right. So as a resident of the area, I'm not going to lie. I'm in favor of almost anything that adds life. I don't want to disrespect our existing businesses on Main Street. They have nurtured us residents and nurtured in the community that may not be obvious to everybody. I will say as a resident, I am generally supportive of this establishment, and I certainly admire the work that the city has done with the legal protections and all that. I do have a wish for businesses like something like a drugstore. We lost our Walgreens. Losing a Walgreens from the beachside, for the non-driving public and also for the tourists from the hotels was really hard, and we've lost a number of laundromats. Now, there is an establishment where I used to live in Austin called, what was it called? Like Suds and Duds. It was a beer hall and laundromat. And there was another one that was like espresso and laundromat. Anyway, there's lots of things I can think of. I do generally support this just because it's moving forward. And yeah, viva Main Street. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And that was my final speaker.
All right, do we have any other comments Shelley. All right, no other comments. We had some great speakers. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be noted by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Rob, please give him our regards, and we're looking forward to bringing this to the finish line. Okay, thank you.
And that was our last agenda item.
Okay. And, all right, as last agenda item, who was our, we started with
Strickland, we'll start
Commissioner
with
Strickland?
Strickland.
Yes, sir. Well, you look real sharp tonight. And you know, sometimes when we get married, they have a way of taking us to a new level, brother.
Well, somebody's got to hold me to a higher standard.
They will do that for us if got the
They
right
do.
one.
They do.
Yes, I know they do. We see the difference. All right. Yes, ma'am.
So I appreciated being at the groundbreaking yesterday. I enjoyed seeing all the firefighters being there, and just they were having a really good time seeing their future unfold. And it was a pleasure being there. And as a commission, having us brought that about was really nice. Thank you so much for the awards that we all have. Somebody asked me what they were, and I explained it to them. So thank you so much. I will keep it for a very, very long time. When we were speaking about Main Street, I actually was in the middle of a comment, and then I was interrupted and overlooked. But I'm okay with it. It's okay. It's all right. I do support. I'm going to finish my statement. No, really, it did happen. It really did happen. It's okay. It was noted. It did happen.
I didn't acknowledge you.
I was speaking. I was interrupted, and it was kind of moved on very quickly. But I'm okay with it.
You know.
It's all right. Don't worry.
Don't be okay with it because
it happens. You know what?
Okay.
We forgive, we forget, we move on. It's all right.
All right.
So I do appreciate that Main Street is moving forward. I think that so far Main Street has they've done a pretty good job trying to keep themselves going until this moment arrives. So I appreciate all the hard work the merchants have been putting in and the events they've been putting on by themselves for many years. So they have been trying, and now it's time for something more. It's going to enhance it, but they've been working at it diligently. I was also this week at the girls' conference at the Yvonne Scarlett Golden Building, which we supported. It was a fantastic conference. At that event, I met Miss Jenny Jones, and she's opening up a clinic on Keach Street. And it'll be a clinic for young girls and young ladies and families and women, and it'll be right in the community. And she is actually a midwife. So we had a panel with a midwife, we had a panel with a financial advisor, myself as a therapist, and then a student of biology at Bethune-Cookman. And we each spoke on various topics that affected young girls. Very, very well-received events. I encourage them, as always, to come back next week. They couldn't make it tonight, and they'll be bringing you some footage to let you see where the city's dollars went and what the event was like. And I'm hoping that they ask us again for support for next year. The opening of the clinic on Keach Street will be December 11th, but I think it's great that we'll have a public clinic right on Keach again. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Ben, before I get into my other stuff, can you help with make that motion that we were discussing?
I could, but, I was also thinking that I don't know anything about how the finance department works in specific, and I would hate to craft a motion that,
Okay, so-
if I can finish, if that would be clear, but it may not be workable or ideal. And actually, while I was waiting for this part of our discussion, I got on Municode to see what some of our fellow cities are doing. Maybe I thought there would be some language to suggest. But actually, Port Orange, New Smyrna Beach, and Ormond Beach all have somewhat similar provisions, although to what we have, where the amount of the transfer within a fund isn't limited. There are some additional guardrails. The state statute, which also authorizes us to allow transfers within a fund to be done administratively, which is why we do that, that actually provides that when the governing body transfers money within a fund, it can do it by motion recorded in the minutes. The idea being you don't have to do it by formal resolution. My only point is, and I'm not the finance guy, there must be some reason why it's intended to be somewhat easy to do, and I don't want to disrupt that apple cart, and I thought maybe the thing to do is get the benefit of the advice of finance to see what might be the best way to accomplish what you all have indicated by consensus you want to do. If Mr. Features, I think that's what.
Well, I don't.
Well,
this is not finance or the manager's decision.
Sure.
I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, and I am fine with
Right.
us bringing this back at the next commission meeting so
Yeah.
you can do more research. I have done research.
Right.
But it would be fine for you to bring it back, and
Yeah, I think.
and
staff
let
would
you
make
do
some
more
recommendations.
research on this. I just want more accountability and transparency, and it makes it easier for a commission elected body up here to be able to track where the money is going from one cow. And like I said, if we did a threshold, like a whatever, 30,000, and like I said, on the consent agenda, that like you were just saying, which is totally fine because that's what I was doing my research. And if it looked like it got to be too many, we could always up it even more. So like I
So
said,
I do have a motion, if you want me to put one out there that's consistent with what you said and what I was talking about, if you want me to suggest one, and that is to have.
but I'm totally fine if you want to do more research and make you feel more comfortable. I
Yeah.
mean, and then bring it back so
Sure.
you can explain to them what we're looking at. So
Okay.
in the
All right,
next
that's
commission
fine.
meeting. Okay. I mean, if you
Yeah.
guys, if everyone else is okay with that. Okay. And the next thing is, I know we all agreed on the auditor. And I thought that was actually in the process the last time, I think that was a couple months ago. And I asked where we are at with that. And I know Mr. Feature sent Jim Sexton, he wasn't aware that he was supposed to be looking at, I have the email. And so what he is saying, he needs direction from us if we want a headhunter, if we want slaving like when we hired Mr. Feature, and I think there was another company that we used for Mr. Jagger. Well, I was here for Mr. Jagger, but not when you guys hired him. But so I guess they need direction from us, what we want to do. And I'm fine with either headhunter. So, anybody?
Go ahead.
Do you want a headhunter or can we keep it in-house? And if we keep it in-house, can we also be in on the interview process?
Well, we're gonna interview, we're gonna interview
We do
anyway.
anyway?
Given.
Right.
Yeah.
I prefer a headhunter, but I mean,
I actually prefer a headhunter, and I'll tell you why. Also, I need all of you all to submit back to Mr. Sexton the job description, because I don't want anyone to say that staff is making a decision on what the job description is or making the selections of the top candidates for you all to interview. I think taking this out of the hands of Mr. Sexton, who reports to me, makes it very clear. And you all have to approve the job description that was sent to your attention. So that is why it is not gone out. So I think that you all should allow for us to have a headhunter to do the process, so there is no thoughts or anyone can communicate that there was impropriety from the HR department or from the city manager's office. That's why I believe it's important that someone should do it outside of my office, since that person will report to the commission.
and we've done that before.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
that if this person reports to us,
Yes.
then it should be like, just as yours and Ben's are, that it's a headhunter.
Right.
I'm good with that.
All right,
Okay, and-
I'm good with it, totally.
However, I need to, so do you all want us to, the job description that was provided, do you all want us to provide that to the headhunter and let them draft up a better job description and bring that to you all for approval?
Yep,
Yes.
yep.
What's the timeline on this? Because I don't want us to be rushed and then we have to make a decision, especially if we don't agree with somebody. So what is the timeline? Can we have a timeline that's not to the very last minute?
Well, there's no timeline really. It's just up to us. If
Okay.
we don't like what we have, we just
Right.
push it out till you get what you want.
Okay.
It's not a rush, I don't think.
And I'm fine with that, Commissioner May. I mean, if we're not happy, we
Just take your
go.
time and get what you want.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anyone else?
Was there a need to make a decision on which headhunter to?
No, we'll look at the prices and
Okay.
select the, bring back the most appropriate one. You all make a decision.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
No, Commissioner May, did you want a timeline on this?
I just like to know we're going to process get dragged on forever, but I just like the fact that we don't like something back
Yes.
versus, oh, sorry, we must now. I don't like these last minute deadlines, which has happened before occasionally. Things have gotten to a point where we must decide now when some of us aren't comfortable at that particular time. Just want to forestall that.
Okay.
Well, we will send out an email tomorrow asking for the fees for both of the headhunters that were there to be able to bring you back their fees at the next meeting to move forward. And they'll be the individuals that give you the timeline.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing is, I would like to see, I've talked to Mr. Gross about this and Mr. Feature. I would like to see if the elected body up here would be willing to direct staff to modify our construction standards to promote more positive drainage for our stormwater, because I'm having some problems in my area with our land development code and our stormwater drainage because of the water that's going onto a lot of the sidewalks and stuff that's not been done correctly. So
can you explain what you mean to direct staff?
and I would like to bring Mr. Holmes out for that one, if you're okay with that, Mr. Feature.
Yeah, he'll come out really what Andy is trying to do, that the utilities and public works department, they have certain standards that have been that are elevated that they think will help us in our community to deal with flooding issues and drainage issues in communities. And look, Andy, he doesn't want to come out here. And so he wants to be able to put those, but we would have to put those as part of our LDCs, and it will be items that will cause probably some discussion with our development community, but we need to be able to go ahead and do that at the direction of you all because it goes beyond what we currently do.
And
Andy was
at
at
some
the
big problems in one of my communities that's been going on for a couple of years.
Okay. Come on.
Before he starts, I just appreciate Andy decided to go to the county commission meeting last night, and he was there from 4 p.m. to about 10:30, sitting on the hard bench in the back. So thank you, Andy, for sitting in on my behalf.
And I was one of the crazy ones that watched it till 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'm sure Andy appreciates the city commissioners.
Andy Holmes, Assistant City Manager for Infrastructure. I've always appreciated this commission. But
Good
even
answer.
more after last night. So we publish a set of minimum construction standards, and there's a lot of folks in the development community that like to design right to the minimum. And what happens is things don't always work as well as we would like them to at the very minimum standards. So we'd like to take a look at those standards and evaluate where we can get a better outcome by making some relatively minor modifications to those standards. And it would help us if the commission would direct us to do that, so that it would be it gives a little more weight to it when we deal with a developer, if the commission is behind the effort, and we would bring those back to you for evaluation before we implement them. But we would like to have that direction from the commission. We think that'd be valuable.
Yeah, I love it. Let's get with it.
That's being worked on.
We're working through those issues. They can be addressed. I actually think the tweaking the standard would help the developers too, because it would mean less things have to get reconstructed at the very end of a development. And the issues that we're having right now is some sidewalk slope issues, where they're not draining properly because those minimum standards are so tight that it's actually difficult to construct it. You almost have to build it perfectly, and perfection doesn't really exist in this business. So, bulldozers and concrete and everything doesn't always turn out exactly the way the book shows it to be. So I think it would be a help. It may result in some increased cost, but when you take into account the amount of work you have to tear out and redo because it isn't working, might be a good trade-off.
Okay, great deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bringing
I
up
have
that.
a question.
Yes, sir.
Can we look at the effects of infill housing in the older neighborhoods? Because a lot of times it looks like to me that they go in and have to put a lot of fill dirt in before they put that slab, and it raises it up, creates flooding issues on either side, sometimes in the street or in the back. Is there anything we could do to look at that and maybe modify our standards? Because the modern standards, our updated standards, our current standards, create that elevation increase. And there's a whole neighborhood there that was just built years ago, you know, and not built up as high.
Yeah, that's a complicated issue because it does prevent flooding of the lot that's being constructed on. It often gets credit for flooding the other lots when they've actually been flooding all along because of their elevation.
I got to blame it on something.
Yes. So I would hesitate to relax the standards in that area and create houses that would flood. I think we would be going in a bad direction there, but I understand what you're saying about effects on adjacent property, and we may be able to do a better job of mitigating that.
People on either side of new construction.
Yeah.
I got dirt, mud, and all kinds of stuff in my yard.
Understood. And we'll take a look and see if we can do a better job at mitigating impacts to adjacent properties, but.
Wow, I can't help that.
So we'll bring
Do we need a motion on that, or
I don't think we need a motion. We can bring it back for you all.
to bring it back?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's clear to us that we're being directed to do this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Very
Okay.
good. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. Okay, get the auditor, the thing, oh, okay, Mr. Fietcher. Oh, first of all, Drew, that was awesome yesterday, that groundbreaking. Very good. I love the fire thing. That's why I had to call you today to find out, because I knew that we weren't going to be able to put it out with those. I knew there had to be some kind of switch or something, but I've never seen anything like that. It was pretty awesome. But Mr. Fietcher, me, you, Mr. Chisholm, we did look like idiots.
No, I look great.
Wait a minute. Those hats, you told me, oh, they put the emblem on wrong. You know me, I'm going to do my research. I went back to their Facebook page. I started looking at them with those hats on because the lip is in the back. We had it in the front, and they made us turn it. But you said, oh, the emblem. No, they keep the lip in the back.
I look great.
Because of the, ashes or whatever going in the back. So we were wrong.
I had my head on right.
I know you did. That's why I said Chisholm, Mr. Fietcher, and myself.
You put on your
And then I
hat the way they
called
put
you
it
just
on?
to make sure I was correct, that we were totally wrong.
Don't sound right.
So now I'd just like to wish all the residents happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Commissioner Reed?
All right, well, I'll piggyback on the firefighters as well, Drew. That was excellent. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to it coming to fruition and being able to actually go in there
I told him to save me for it.
just see that space being occupied. It's great to be able to give our firefighters somewhere new, and I'm sure we're going to do something with station number 1. We're not taking it down. We're going to do something with it, right?
Adapt and reuse.
Yes.
Okay, very good. I just want to
Into a
give
restaurant.
kudos to the Peabody staff. Cooling the game was the bomb. I took one of my co-workers. She's a 69-year-old Caucasian woman. And this is what she says to me. I bet I'm going to be the only white person there.
Never.
We came around the corner. I was the only black person there. I said, Barbara, look at all these people. But then again, once the concert really got going, I mean, it didn't care what you looked like, how old you were, how young you were. We were just all jamming together, and it was real good. That was an excellent concert. Veterans Luncheon. Once again, we gave our employees kudos who have served our country. Commissioner Cantu did her blanket distribution. The manager featured this, and it was really good. That was at the Peabody also. And just recognizing those that have served and giving them the other half of that day. On yesterday, the Howard Thurman board, we celebrated 125 years of Howard Thurman. It was a birthday celebration at Allen Chapel with a lunch, and the speaker came from Howard University. He was help me, Mr. Fiacher?
Dean of the chapel.
Dean of the chapel. And you know what he had the audacity to say? He said, "Don't tell anybody, but I'm putting this on record. The great Bethune-Cookman University Concert Chorale sang." No, excuse me. They sang. They didn't sing, they sang. So he gets on the mic and he says, "Don't tell anybody, but Howard University's concert chorale has nothing on you." And I said, "We know." Okay? These are Mary's Black Roses performing. There's a neighborhood meeting tomorrow in regards to what are we going to do with the housing areas in Midtown. So please come out to the, I believe it's at the Dickerson Center. It's in the McHale Brown Room. The citizens actually get an opportunity to have a voice on what's being done. So this is one of those opportunities. And then I'm going to conclude with a flyer that's going to let you know what's happening, because the next time we come, it's going to be right upon us. So on Saturday, December 7th, Commissioner Cantu and Commissioner Henry are supporting Elf movie at the stadium. And just old school drive-in. We could really bring that back. Today's kids know nothing about drive-in theater. They'll think it's the bomb. We really should look into that, because I would think it's the bomb. Being able to eat popcorn in your car and watch, y'all know what I'm talking about. All right. So then on December 13th, that Friday night, we're going to have our second annual Children's Christmas Party in conjunction with the Tortugas. Going to have some cocoa, some hot chocolate, some hot dogs, some festive games, some blow-ups, and it's going to be a great time. I think when we looked at our numbers based on the phone, I think Justin told us it's about 800 people were there last year, Justin? Yeah, about 800 people based on just cell phones being there. So we're excited about that. And then the next day is our Christmas party that the city is hosting, that I hope we're all going to be a part of. It's at night and it looks really nice.
Christmas party?
Christmas parade, I'm sorry. It started with a P. It's our Christmas, it's a party down the street, down Beach Street. Is our Christmas parade. And then in January, I want to start talking about this. We're going to be hosting the MLK Community Health Resource Fair. And it's in conjunction with the city, Kappa Alpha Psi, the Mayo Clinic, the Health Department for Volusia County, and the National Panhellenic Council. And we've already began vetting our vendors. It's going to be a resource fair where you come out and have various services done. Mayo Clinic is going to give a presentation. A doctor's coming down from Jacksonville with them. And we're going to piggyback this off on the second meeting of the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. So they'll be working out, and then they'll have a chance to come and get some information on what's happening. So I'll keep telling you about that one, because that's not that far away, but it's right around the corner. And then I just want to say to our citizens, happy gobble gobble.
Amen. To piggyback on Commissioner Reed, the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, we are accepting applicants. And so we would like for you to sign up for what I believe is the best bargain in town for exercise, working out, getting to know your neighbors, learning to eat a little better, or accepting the challenge, because most of us know what we should eat, we just don't eat it. Please engage yourself, Commissioner Strickland. You'll do yourself a favor and you'll like the experience. So please sign up for the Mayor's Fitness Challenge. Yeah, you do. And just think about it. We're excited about the next 4 years. I skipped you, and you're over there being quiet.
I thought you were just piggybacking off of
I was, but I was on my way to go. Please don't be silent when I make a mistake. I'm all for it. I want everybody to have their turn. Let's go ahead.
I just want to congratulate Mayor and Commissioners that got sworn in. Also, I'm excited to work with you guys for another 2 years, even you, Commissioner May. So, no, I didn't mean it that way, because you didn't get sworn in. get myself in trouble. I didn't mean it that way. I just said the people that got sworn in, so, but I would like to include you too, because I know you didn't get sworn in today. But for another 2
Makes
years,
sense.
God willing, I'll be here. Well, okay, on that note, last week, I attended the first arrival flight of Breeze Airways to Daytona Beach International Airport, and I'm really excited because it is a flight 2 days a week to White Plains, New York. So I hope the residents who utilize that, they're going to be having flights from Hartford, Connecticut, Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, and also Providence, Rhode Island, starting in February. So I just want to thank the airport and the county for giving residents and new visitors the opportunity to fly out of Daytona Beach. I love that airport. The other thing is I went to the Volusia County Economic Development Cube breakfast, and they were discussing exploring outdoor recreation and the economy. In Volusia County in 2022, the total annual economic impact was $1.8 billion. And a lot of it came from utilizing our waterways. So with that being said, I was just wondering if we could maybe direct staff to look into our waterways that we have, like Halifax, City Island, parks that we have, our day docks, how we could maybe bring in more revenue from these places that we have on the waterways to participate in this $1.8 billion. Also, like for our redevelopment department and waterway areas. The other thing was the county has a beach parking app. And on the app, you could actually look to see what parking lots are full so you don't have to drive around. I know that New Smyrna Beach, Ponce Inlet, and Daytona Beach Shores are utilizing that app and also piggybacking off of their parking. So I know that we had spoke to staff about the parking. I know we have one coming, but since people are visiting like Volusia beaches, just to keep everything, can we compare what we have and what they have also? Yeah. Is that okay? Is that all right with everyone? Because I'd like to keep everything consistent when people come to visit. You know, they don't have to go to 2 different apps at the beach, and we would be an option for that. Then I also met with VCARD last week. They are the Volusia County Association for Responsible Development. They brought some engineers together. Jessica was there from Cobb Cole also with land development. And they provided me some suggestions on just how to mitigate our standing water. So I didn't get a chance yet to meet with staff to see if there's anything that we could do, but I don't know if anybody else wants to meet with them. Maybe you could ask them questions that maybe I didn't ask them and get some ideas. And the other thing is too, at the elected officials roundtable, they were talking about putting together a flooding committee. So I know that they asked for somebody. I don't know if we could nominate someone to be on that committee because they feel that regional. Yes, Commissioner. Cantor.
Yeah, Mayor Nancy Miller has already contacted me about it, which they haven't. We're waiting because I represent the mayor, so that's why nothing's being brought up to they actually do it because she's going out and Lois is going in, so Lois will be taking over. So there's not a committee forming as of right now.
They will be forming a committee and.
No. Nancy's going, I set in for the mayor. Right, Nancy's going out and Lois is coming in. So nothing's gonna happen probably till after Christmas before they start something like that.
Okay. So, but they did ask if somebody wants to be part of it.
Yeah,
It didn't have to be the
she did ask
representative.
me if I wanted to be on it since I'm
Will you
on the
be there for-
TPO and I communicate with DOT. And I told her yes, but I'd have to wait till they actually form it and bring it back to the commission.
Okay, so you're going to be representing us there also?
I don't know yet.
Listen, that committee is, she sits on the committee for me.
Correct.
And so in deference to that, she would be the person from my perspective to do that. Then both of you are not going to be able to do that. I don't think.
And
that would be
they
essential.
pretty much, as the mayor knows, do little committees all the time. And I was on the infrastructure. I think you were on the bridge one. And and usually you meet like a couple times and just kind of go back and forth. And
So, I mean, is it effective, or you're just meeting a couple of times and nothing
Well,
gets
they
done?
talk and about trying to talk to other leaders and, you know,
It can be effective because at the end of the day, if we have a solution that comes from the Army Corps of Engineers, we're all going to have to be in alignment, and we're all going to have to come up with some funds. So the discussion begins there, and then you would just bring those ideas back to this commission.
Okay.
So I'm not going to say it's not important, but as in all things in government, the wheels grind rather slowly. You know, so.
Okay.
Go to. They have an opportunity for public comment, right, at some point. So you
Yes.
could go. You could go to public comment
Yeah,
in any
you
of
can
these
do that.
meetings, and you could still be present and listen and contribute.
they're advertised.
Okay, and on my closing, I just want to thank Chief Driscoll for allowing me to put out a fire that I didn't realize that we weren't really putting out. But I was committed to putting out that fire. So congratulations to you and your team and everyone that made it happen. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, before you continue, I just want to acknowledge that Commissioner Paris and I also went to the Florida League of Cities Legislative Days, and I'm on the Code Enforcement Board, but I've also been appointed by the President to the Educational and Training Board. So I'll be going back in December in regards to that. But we were both there representing our city.
Okay. Commissioner Reed and Commissioner Henry, who is not here, it is Classic Week, so that wasn't mentioned. But when I was dropping Paisley off at school on yesterday, she gets out of the car and she yells, "Say Wildcats, Daddy." So, of course, I let the window down and I yell, "Wildcats!" To which I hear some little guy yell back, "Fam you!" So she obviously has a rival at school who is a rattler. And, of course, she wanted me to let him know whose team we were on. So go Wildcats this weekend, and let's have a great time at the Classic. This past weekend, we commenced with a new project that I've been working on, where we visited as a family the historic Abbey House, which was established in 1875, and it is the site of the incorporation for the city of Daytona Beach. They are underneath their third owner in my lifetime as mayor, and she has done a remarkable job investing in the project. And what my plan is, you guys remember that I do a show that's called Making a Difference in Daytona Beach. So what we did was we met at the Abbey, the staff came, we interviewed the owner, and we decided to make it sort of a staycation as a family. So we stayed at the Abbey for the weekend to experience the investment that she's made, the hospitality that she has, and the beauty of her environment, as well as the beauty, the experience of downtown Daytona Beach. So the show will air probably at the first of the year, where you will be able to see the interview, see a little bit of what we experienced on her property, but also what we experienced, why it's in such a great location. It's located, on Beach Street, across the street from the marina, so it's in a great spot. She has a great property. Her breakfast was nothing short of salacious. Had the greatest, I dare say, the greatest French toast that I have ever had, dipped in ice cream or something. She dipped it in ice cream, and I've never had anything that tastes quite like it. I'm sure it wasn't consistent with the mayor's fitness challenge menu, but it was delicious. And so I want to say this to say that, one, watch the show. I'm looking for 3 other venues to visit and to expose and talk about our city. So a part of our experience was that, one, she had great electric bikes. We used the electric bikes as well as a two-wheel bike to ride Beach Street on Saturday. We went to the library, which is a great venue. We visited the Mary McLeod Bethune statue. We went to Angel and Phelps, and we just toured all of Beach Street to experience. And so it's in a great location. There are just so many things to do down there. Then that night, we went to the Peabody for a show, the Christmas show, which was wonderful. It was an amazing show. And so the objective is to say that you have all of these things to do in Daytona Beach. When we went out that night, we went to Little Italy's. The food was amazing. It was a great venue to eat in. One of the things that I did notice, and that not living in downtown, but being able to visit, gives you, as a mayor, it gave me a different perspective as to why it would be a great idea to have a grocery store downtown. Because when we returned from the Peabody that night, of course, we needed to get snacks. When I wanted to get snacks, my first destination was, so we drive down, I thought, well, there's no place downtown. So we ended up driving all the way to Publix on Bellevue, which is quite a journey from downtown. Would be a much better experience if you had, and the Abbey, by the way, used to be the town store. So of course it's not the town store anymore. But having a town store, if you had, even if it wasn't a grocery store, if it was a town store where you could get snacks in the downtown area, would be another way to have a good experience. So that was one of the things that I learned about downtown as an experience. Of course, I already knew it, but experiencing being down there, I felt it firsthand. So, I will visit 3 other sites this year at some point in time when our schedules can allow it and when I've chosen locations. But I think this is going to be a really great way of exposing people to why Daytona Beach is a great place to visit and why some of our small businesses, such as the owner of the Abbey, has what I believe is a great project in place. And so that concludes my remarks, Mr. Manager.
If you notice that there is a branding presentation, so I'm going to call up Susan and Beth. They are presenting what was some of the discussions that you all had with them individually and collectively. Oh, this one down there.
You ready?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a clicker? Okay.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. I'm really excited to talk to you about the evolution of our city's brand. A lot of you are already familiar with it. I'm Susan Serbone, Communications and Marketing Manager. I'd like to introduce to you to my teammates that are here in the audience. I call them the 3 J's, and unfortunately, Jessica had to leave, but I have Justin Valley Joe, Julie Varley. I'd be remiss if I didn't introduce Joey and Xavier and Charles Smar. They're technically part of the IT team, but they certainly do a lot for our communications department. Yes. They do, and you'll see it soon. So we're going to discuss the current branding efforts, and Beth is going to introduce you to some new concepts that she has for extending our branding to our neighborhoods. Chris is Beth's talented graphic artist, and Beth helped a lot with developing our city brand that we have today. So without further ado, I would like to show you a quick video. So what is city branding? It's the use of marketing techniques to give a city a unique identity in the minds of four audiences: our residents, our visitors, our business owners, and our investors. Branding is achieved by the use of consistent colors, fonts, and design elements to strengthen a message and foster a sense of cohesion between departments and divisions. Daytona Beach is not alone in rebranding itself. Cities all over the world have found success through unified branding. Here are a few examples of cities that have successfully and intentionally elevated their branding. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how we developed Daytona Beach's brand. The branding transformation started about 5 years ago, and it was with the task I had of redesigning the city's website. And the vendor that I was working with gave me some suggestions on color palettes. And what they suggested was light greens, maybe salmon colors, some beiges, some real beachy looking colors. And I saw it and I said, well, those are pretty, those are nice, but that's not what Daytona Beach is. Daytona Beach isn't a little charming beach, quiet town. We're Daytona Beach, we're unique, we're something different. So I wasn't quite sure what colors would say that. So that's when I called Beth and Chris and we had the discussion of what should our colors be. That was the start of it. So when you start the branding process, you first have to know what's unique about your city. And we all know a lot of history about our city, but I'll go through a few things. First of all, Daytona Beach is the only Daytona Beach in the world. There is no other city that is named Daytona Beach. Like if we were named Franklin, there would be 30 Franklins in the United States, but we're the only Daytona Beach. So we do have an advantage there, and a lot of people have heard about our city. Let's see. In 2 years, we will be celebrating our 150th anniversary, so we've been around a long time. So who are we and what are we? We are unique, we are bold, we are eclectic. From the early days, we've been trendsetters and have been known for our pioneers. I'll just highlight two tonight, but we have many that are past and present. Mary McLeod Bethune, she's known for establishing Bethune-Cookman University, which in itself is quite an accomplishment, but she was so much more. She was a civil rights leader, she was the first Black woman to head a federal agency, and she was a charter member of the United Nations. Sir Malcolm Campbell, he came to Daytona Beach in the late 1920s to mid-1930s, and he raced his Bluebird on the beach. His goal was to set a world speed record on the beach, and he reached speeds of 276 miles per hour. That started the tourism industry in Daytona Beach, which today we host more than 10 million visitors a year. We're also dynamic and enduring. We're unexpected, always changing and moving, like the waves in the ocean or the sands on our beach. We host the Daytona 500 every year. That's NASCAR's flagship event known as the Great American Race. We've been hosting that since 1959, and next year will be the 67th running of that race. Like I said, we're enduring. We have Bike Week. It started in 1937, and next year marks the 84th year that people have come together, united in their love of motorcycles, and they come to Daytona Beach. We are world famous, we are welcoming, and we are civic-minded. Daytona Beach welcomed Jackie Robinson, and history was made here in 1946 when the city ignored segregation laws just so Jackie could play. Daytona Beach is home to 6 colleges and universities. Embry-Riddle is the largest, oldest, and most comprehensive aeronautical university in the United States. It was recently ranked top 5 universities in aeronautical engineering programs. And because we have Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, we were able to recruit the French manufacturer of airplanes that is bringing 1,000 jobs to the city. So we know all this about the city. We talked about this. What colors represent all those attributes? And these are the colors that were selected. The blues signify strength, leadership, water, and trust. The dark blue represents stability, while the light blue feels refreshing and friendly. Orange represents youth, energy, and positivity. And the red is an accent color and a call to action color. From our colors, we developed fonts. These are the fonts that were selected. We have a primary font, a secondary font, and an accent font. The header font is used for titles. The secondary font is used for text, and the accent font is very Daytona because it's kind of unexpected, it's fun, it's not what you would think. With those colors and fonts, the world-famous brand was born because we can all agree that Daytona Beach is world-famous. And the world-famous Daytona is the logo, and the 4 little squares would be our icons. We've been using this brand for about 5 years now, and we've had success with it. It provides a unified voice through signage, print, electronic, and digital collateral. Here are some examples of where you can see it. We've had our redevelopment department have branded blazers at a recent state conference. We have new signage in parks. There's a sign at the Dickerson Community Center, and Daisy Stocking Park also has a new branded signage. We have yard signs. We have the banners in downtown Daytona that borrow heavily from our brand. Here's just an example of the collateral that we produce. We have the website, we have our flyers, we do newsletters. Actually, the department produces 1,800 unique graphic elements every single year. Another example of the use of our branding was this summer's recent centennial celebration for the Highlands community that Commissioner Reed supported. This group was so proud of where they lived and being in Daytona Beach. They couldn't wait to share their stories with the residents that live in other places in our city. And here's a picture of them with the commissioner and their branded sign, their branded t-shirts, and the branded banner on the Tarragona Arch. So what you haven't seen in this presentation is the city seal. And you might ask, what's going to happen to that city seal? Well, I'm here to tell you nothing's going to happen to it. The seal is actually a mechanical device that Tish uses to stamp documents. It's in the charter, and in the charter it says that the city clerk is a custodian of the seal. And the charter also says that the city seal shall in no way be employed for the purpose of advertising or promoting the sale of any article of merchandise. The charter goes on, it states what has to be in the city seal. It says it has to have a sable palm, it has to have 2 silhouettes of seagulls, it has to have a sun with radiating rays, and it has to have the words official seal on it. So that city seal that Tish uses inspired the city seal that was previously used in marketing and signage throughout the city. It was developed in 1975 to prepare for the city's centennial celebration. And so what we have a lot of inconsistencies with that seal. It's been morphed into something completely different. There's different colors, there's different fonts, there's different images, and all you have to do is look out at the business card rack in the lobby to see all the different variations of the city seal. So what I'm proposing is that we turn the corner and we go full in on the brand. We've used it for 5 years. We've kind of soft sold it. We've introduced it. It's been well received, and we would like to implement it further by establishing a brand manager. I think we can do that in-house with our personnel that we already have. We would create a quality control and a design review process. We will distribute style guides, which you have in your folders, of how to use the brand and what colors, and some different guidelines on use. We would conduct training workshops with staff, and we would review existing collateral, and we would update it as needed. And now, Beth will continue the presentation. Thank you.
Beth Gibson, City Grants Manager, Strategy Branding. So what do you think of when you think of world famous Daytona Beach? I just want you to get in your mind, what is Daytona Beach to you? And I think I was listening to the mayor describe, you know, his weekend, and I think that's what it is. A city is a series of places, images, and perceptions. That's what makes up a place. And a place brand is a strategic approach to foster an image or a sense of place. So what we're talking about is shaping perceptions. It's really the same city. We have these great things, but it's about helping people see through our lens, right? Shaping their perceptions, and that will drive the competitive identity of the city. Why is that important? Well, in the 1930s, this is not new. In the 1930s, we had a marketing campaign, our city. It's cooler here. That's what we marketed. And we targeted visitors because it was cooler before air conditioning was invented. And that made us competitive at that time. Today's technology, we have to be competitive again because people have choice about where they live based on our mobile technology, right? So the perceived identity and the value of a city is what will drive talent, tourism, and investment. Where that flows is where that perceived identity is. So cities with distinct brand and marketing consistency, they have 3.5 times more visibility. They have 80% more recognition, especially when we show them our brand out in the community and our flyers and our communication and our messaging 7 times. We need to see something 7 times before we remember it. And we're 81% more trusted, and they generate 23% more revenue. So that's a big return on investment for branding. The impact on our citizens is that they actually become brand ambassadors. They talk about how much they love their city and how great it is and all the great things there is to doing it because they have an increased sense of civic pride, ownership, and belonging. And I think a lot of the events and the things that the city's doing coupled with your branding, you're doing that. That's what you're seeing with the things that you're doing out in the community. So this momentum is rolling. You're doing a great job with it. And then the impact on visitors. A great place to live is going to be a great place to visit. And that's important because of our $5.4 billion tourist industry. It's real. It impacts this city. And then the impact on businesses. We would also have a made-in brand. So made in world-famous Daytona Beach. You get the official stamp because you're a local vendor, you're a local business, and you're the only one who can have that made-in world-famous Daytona Beach. That's going to be something special. And that'll even drive additional local makers who want to be part of that, right? That, again, that sense of belonging within the business community and pride and ownership. The power of the brand can be so powerful that people will not only clamor to celebrate with us and be part of our brand, but they'll want to associate their own assets with our brand. Perfect example with Ace, and you can see they don't even really have our brand there. They've just grabbed something from the community, from a sign, to try and brand with Daytona Beach because they want to be part of it. So let's really give people our brand and let them be able to celebrate with us and join with us. So there's 3 components of branding. Susan really talked a lot about the first one. That's the design, the physical logo, the trademark, you know, the word mark, I mean, that is the city. So that's the visual identity that we can visually relate. That's the city. There's two other. One is branded destinations, which are those engaging places in our community that we have. That's part of our brand. And then our communication, those stories we tell about our community, about our people, our heritage, that's the third part of the brand. So how do we tell engaging stories? We celebrate the city, the physical aspects, our unique heritage and our culture, our assets and our treasures that we have, and our human traits and characteristics, as well as our future ambitions. And we elicit an emotional response. That's really what we're talking about, that changes perceptions. These emotional responses. What do you feel when you go somewhere, right? It's a lot about how you felt, what kind of time you had. So it's eliciting that emotional response through building ideas around people, instilling a sense of pride and community, tempting visitors and residents to take part, and connecting existing brands and businesses while welcoming newcomers. And then we want to connect that story, those engaging stories, all together with this interconnected visual timeline. It could be used throughout the city. You could have, you know, something, the whole context of the city and the timeline of our story, and you might have it out on a historic site, and you might just have the rest of it grayed out, and the piece that's applicable right now in the story is sort of maybe in color or bold. So people can kind of see this is this piece of the story, and all these things then begin to connect, and people can put the story together for themselves. It will emphasize the brand character, what Susan talked about, how we're unique, we're eclectic, we're enduring, and it will help people understand where are we as a city, where are we as a community, and then where can I participate? So if I understand what chapter I am in a story, I can see what the story is immediately and how I fit in. There's context for me. So you could even see something like, this could be a mural on a wall, it could be a sign, an Instagram photo spot. We're still writing our story. What will you contribute? So you as a visitor, you as a resident, you as a merchant, you're here and you're part of our story and you have a voice. So the next thing I'm going to talk about are branded destinations, connecting places to the brand. And what makes an engaging place? It's more than just the brand, and I just wanted to touch on this real briefly because it's important, and the city is doing a really great job of this as well now. It's comfort, it's picking up garbage, it's safety, right? Engaging places are places that you want to linger. And this wheel shows there's lots of indicators of that. Are there women and children around? If you don't see any women and children in a space, it's probably not safe. They're good indicators of what's safe and what's comfortable. So there's just a lot of things that go into engaging spaces, and I think the city is thinking about all those things. But places impact perception and brand loyalty, so it's important to think about these engaging spaces. And I also want to talk a minute about hierarchy of place branding. Again, Daytona Beach is a place. We're branding a place, not a product. So it's a little bit different than Coca-Cola, but it also has similarities. So there's sort of a hierarchy where the city brand is sort of king because the place is Daytona Beach. That's the big picture place that we're branding. But again, what we said at the beginning, right? What is that place? It's all these other places within that place, right? So the first thing would be like districts. So you see at the top, LPGA, Speedway, Midtown, Downtown, Beachside. We already have those as part of the wayfinding signage. And those are areas that are the bigger areas of our city. They're the areas we would drive to typically in your car, you know, and they're that big. And then within those areas, there's kind of sub areas. For instance, if you looked at downtown, then an area of downtown might be City Island, still sort of a big area with different destinations within that area, right? And then a specific, what I call an asset or a treasure, might be Jackie Robinson Ballpark, just to give you an idea of sort of how I'm using some of those terms. But really, all of those things that I mentioned, every asset, every treasure that you have, every historic site, every place that you hold dear in this community, those are destinations. All of them, and the city is a destination, and these districts will be destinations because they're all places you can go to, and they're all things you can do and create memories. And that's what we're really trying to do with branding, is really show the world how great Daytona Beach is and all the great things that we have to enjoy and do in it. And when you start to brand like this, you will naturally start to see where you can do, like tours will create themselves, right? If we have a system of branded historic destinations and we have the system and here's all of our historic destinations and you can see them with signage, then you know. You know that you can go do a tour and see them all. So they sort of create themselves. So branded destinations, intentionally implementing a system of branded destinations and experiences that connect people to culture, history, recreation, and each other. That's a tagline that we've been using for about 5 years, and we want to just use it even more. But on all these, what we call the success story sheets that we create after we have a successful grant project, we use those. And that not only helps citizens feel prideful about their city government and what they're doing and their intentionality, but it also helps us get funding from grantors because they want to see that too. They want to see partners that are intentional about what they are pursuing, that they have a clear path of where they're going and they want to get on board and help you get there. So the destinations that we're looking at, there's about 70 different places in the community that we want to now start to go out in the community and really brand aggressively. These 5 districts we talked about, Beachside, Midtown, Downtown, LPGA, and Speedway. Heritage neighborhoods, there's about 7 heritage neighborhoods. What we're identifying as heritage neighborhoods are specifically residential historic districts. And you can see the ones there, Pino Park, Seabreeze Village, Silver Beach Village. So we have 7 of those, and they would have a special brand associated with them. And again, you could have, sort of this tour of places to go. The parks, we have 29 parks within the city and having all of those branded. And I'll show you an example of that, but you've seen the park signage. Historic sites, 20 of those. You know what those are. So again, a whole system of our historic sites. And then 2 that are maybe a little unique that I think are important in this community. Destination streets. Main Street, we talked about it tonight. It's a destination in and of itself, even though it's a street. The ISB corridor. Imagine if as you were driving in from the interstate on ISB, you went through Innovation Way or Innovation Area or Innovation City. Right, and there's the wind tunnel and signs to Embry-Riddle or Education Way, or so there's all these things happening as you come in, right, that are really phenomenal. All these colleges and learning and education and innovation and technology, and we could just tell that story just with having that corridor branded as you come in, as an example. Mason Avenue. Have you thought about the food on Mason Avenue? Mm-hmm. There's Jamaican, there's Honduran, there's soul food, there's Mexican, there's specific grocers. I mean, think of that as a cultural food corridor, just a cultural corridor, right? Suddenly, if you brand it that way, doesn't that sound cool? I want to go eat there, So it's just, again, that perspective. It's already there. We don't have to go create these establishments. They're there. We just need to celebrate them. And then destination trails. We have the Black Heritage Trail. We're actively working on that. We got grant funding for. So we had the story of the trail in the brochure and all, but we don't have the arrival sign. So it's important that you have this signage so people know this is that thing. This is that site. So Heritage Trail, Sweetheart Trail, and then even the city's golf course. I didn't realize till I was researching this. There's multiple trails throughout the state, throughout the nation, right? Sweetheart Trail is part of the East Coast Greenway. There's also a historic golf trail that the state of Florida has. Our golf course is on it. How cool is that? We want to make sure we celebrate that and incorporate all the things we're part of that are bigger than us as well. This is an example of the park signage. Y'all are, familiar with it. But just as far as where we're going with that, each of the parks are getting implemented, and quite a few have been already. I think one of the things that we want to go back and do that we haven't implemented yet is what I'm calling a story sign. So as an example, at James Huger Dickerson Park, like we have the Dr. James Huger Park there, right? But who is Dr. James Huger? We haven't told people why we have a park named after him and why he's important and why we want to celebrate him. So just having something maybe next to that or on the back of it, that sort of thing. Plus we want to add QR codes so we have a lot of information, a lot of great stories that your team has been developing that we want to share, that the public, if they want to know more and they find it interesting, they can. Okay, this is an example of a district. So Beachside District, On the right-hand side, you see that's our story, the brand story. So we'd start to talk about all of our assets, our treasures, our destinations within the district. And then on the left, you see we would have a physical map, location, and start to highlight some of the destinations within the beachside, the assets, the treasures. You can see we have the city of Seabreeze and the town of Daytona Beach. Those original limits are both within the beachside district, those original towns that we merged with back in the 1920s. So to me, this is kind of old Daytona, original old Daytona, you know, and we play to that. It also has 3 historic heritage neighborhoods, Seabreeze Village, Surfside Village, and then South Peninsula Historic District we would name Silver Beach Village. So you have these 3 historic villages. Parks and different things in there as well. Something we're calling DB icons, like the Oceanfront Park. Really unique with the Work Progress Administration with the band shell. Our clock tower that's on the list of same as Big Ben as for being one of the most unique clock towers in the world. So just those really amazing assets that we have. And we do not have a concept for Beachside as far as the brand yet, you know, that logo, but we do have one for Midtown to show you. We haven't done the other story and all that yet for Midtown, but we have an idea for Midtown. So here we go, see what y'all think of this. So that would be the sort of the logo, the district brand for Midtown as a concept. And you can see we still would have world famous Daytona Beach, so it's clear that this is a district within our city. And then you can just see we just did some little mock-ups to show you how it might be used. You know, banners, business directories, kiosks throughout the district. We could start to use that. And then this is an example. I won't go over this much, but this is a heritage neighborhood. It looks a lot like the district brand from the standpoint of you're going to have a story, but that's going to be true about all these assets we're talking about. These 70 different places that we talked about would have a story associated with them, and then, you know, the physical location map, signage, those sorts of things. And then this is the concept, the design part of the brand for the heritage neighborhood, Silver Beach Village. And with this, you can see it's more, unlike Midtown. Midtown was kind of more bold, edgy, modern, strong. The colors representing cultural diversity. This is kind of more laid back, more beachy, more, I think the blues indicate, as Susan said, with the brand colors, you know, the welcoming, civic-minded. And that was something, you know, those 2 original towns, they got together with Daytona over here, the city of Daytona, for the greater good. The 3 towns said, hey, we can do better by being together. So it was really this welcoming, civic-minded. So I think this captures that, as well as the sun and the sand, or the sand and the waves, the sky. You know, as far as the colors, it's relaxed, but it's welcoming and organic. So how are we going to pay for all this? One source, you know, always talk about is grants. There are some grant funds, although you don't see a lot of just branding grant money, but we can find ways to slip it into grants, particularly signage and things like that. Yeah, put line items in there to get some of this implemented out in the community. And sometimes we, like the Black Heritage Trail, you know, it's educational, so we can just get an educational historic preservation grant for that, which we did. Also, something that's a little more esoteric and it's still absolutely real, but not as directly related, your property values will increase with your branding effort. You all know, you know, talk to the realtors, they'll tell you a historic property is going to be more sought after. If it's in this heritage neighborhood, it's going to, suddenly you'll see property values elevate. And it's already there, but the more we tout that and help the realtors, right, and help the people selling their homes, the more property values will increase. Tourist development tax. Anything that we do with engaging places, stories, and design will increase visitation and tourism expenditures. And that helps the CVV, it helps the tourism industry, and that is a big source of funding that I think we have a bona fide request to be able to get some assistance for all this branding that we'll be doing that will help that industry. And then really monetizing the city's brand. I think this is a really big opportunity for the city. World famous Daytona Beach. People want to buy things here. People want to associate with this brand. They're clamoring to. If you get that out there and you sell it, we start selling world famous Daytona Beach merchandise, I think it'll be a great recurring revenue generator that can pay for the whole branding effort on an ongoing basis. and be a new funding source for the city. So we're talking about, different types of merch that you could have out there, and kind of the sky's the limit when you think about all the things that world famous Daytona Beach could be on. And, why do we buy souvenirs when we're on vacation or when we go somewhere? It's because we had a good time and we don't want that memory to fade. It's a reminder of a great perception, right? Of a place, of a memory. So imagine our merch in the Daytona Beach airport, and that's the last thing you grab on your way out, right? Is your t-shirt to remember that great experience you had in world famous Daytona Beach, and to remind you to come back. So with that, I'm gonna end it and take any questions. I could go on all night, but I know y'all are tired and want to go home, and the manager's probably already timed me and ready to cut me. So thank you. Is that okay?
Do we have any questions? Y'all just ready to go home, but y'all should be excited.
I just have
This
a
is
really
something to
quick
jump up
comment.
and down about.
You guys did a great job. Thank you so much for bringing that to life and putting it out there. Beautiful.
I love it. You see, I'm sorry, Mr.
Go
Mayor.
ahead, no.
You see those commercials all the time about other cities. I think it's somewhere out west where they're like riding on the waves of water, walking on these things, and they're canoeing and they're singing, they're doing all this stuff. And I said, where's our stuff? Why don't they know about us? So I think it's time.
Look at that right there. Look at that. Look at this right here. Look at that. This is where we live. This is where we live. And when you go down there, you know you're in a place that looks like and feels like paradise. This is what I experienced this weekend. I rode down there and I felt like, wow, this is where I live. This is something to be proud of. This presentation is something to be proud of. Having the ambition to be able to express ourselves in such a dynamic, eclectic, magnificent way. This is beautiful. And so we can't get there all at once, but I see us getting there. I see it even in my mayor's literacy, the way that it's laid out for the mayor's literacy, cake that we give to the kids and the shirts. Everything is starting to come together, all of the branding that we have. And I keep looking at that cake and keep going, huh. And each year I see it over and over, and now it's embedded in my head. So and I see how it happens, and I thought the Midtown was inspiring. It was powerful. It was strong. And that's what Midtown is. It's a resilient community that withstands storms, hurricanes, builds a university on a city dump. It's an amazing place. So no, I'm beyond excited about this, and looking forward to helping to promote it and find ways to sell it. It's beautiful. Any other comments? No? Okay. Great job. Great job. Yeah. I was ready to start putting it on. I'm like, look at it. Great. Thank you. All right.
Mayor,
yes,
I would
ma'am.
like to mention, when you were saying about a grocery store, we did have a grocery store down there one time. Remember Piggly Wiggly?
Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
on
we
Main
remember
Street.
growing up.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It would be
And that's
nice.
where you did the stamps for it.
Right. S&H.
There's an H, yeah. So, yeah, but it would enhance the experience of
Right.
people
If
who
we
are
had
visiting
something,
if you had.
it doesn't have to be big.
It doesn't have to be big.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, we're going to move on to the residents of the city of Daytona Beach.
Our first speaker is Jim Sweeney, and on deck is John Nicholson.
So Jim Sweeney, 20 North Halifax. I know it's late. I'm sorry to go so late. Winston Churchill said, Americans will always do the right thing only after they've tried everything else. And sometimes I have the feeling this might be the same for Daytona Beach at times too. As I stated, I own the property at 20 North Halifax Avenue where I operate my real estate appraisal business. After 20 years at this location, I made a difficult decision to sell. I got kids going to college and it's expensive. I went to the city first to see if there was any interest back in July because I know there were state funds available for the permits and licensing, but there was no interest and the city decided to go a different direction on Beach Street. I then went to my neighbor, CTO Realty Growth. They're right behind me, Consolidated Tomoka. They're not interested, and they're the ones that had bought Teresa Doan's properties, and they're kind of in a sell-off mode on Beachside right now. So I made the decision to list the property for $699,000, and it went under contract in 10 days to a buyer known as Elite Aesthetics. It appeared to be a perfect fit. She operates a medical spa business, which is the highest and best use for my property. And even public records of Volusia County states its use as office medical. They said this was the original use. Now, my property is 100 years old, all right, 1925, 99. So it's been many things over the years, including a medical business. The city of Daytona Beach's zoning is RP, residential professional. It's my understanding that it allows for healthcare uses, medical clinic or medical treatment facilities. Now, last Thursday, my realtor called me and said everything was completed for the sale and the buyer was just waiting on a letter from the city for a small business loans requirement. Everything else had been satisfied and she wanted to move up the closing. Later that day, we were shocked to hear that the city of Daytona Beach will not allow her to operate her business. Now, I encourage you to go to her website and see the level of professionalism with this business. Her locations are in Flagler Beach, Sanford, and her business in Daytona Beach Shores was destroyed. She made a decision that she was going to move it to Daytona Beach. So I emailed the city and asked if there was some type of misunderstanding with the buyer's initial question, because I read her email and it was a little speaking about zoning change. But I said a zoning change isn't needed. Zoning and use appear to conform with her current use. So I requested a meeting with the city and have still not had any answer or communication as to why it's being denied. In closing, this business is a catalyst for the long-suffering Main Street corridor. It's a professional business that will help other established businesses in the area, and it encourages others, such as 777 Main Street and Mr. Baumgartner, to come to Main Street and invest. I ask you, if not this business, then what are we looking for? And I think they said a drug rehab facility was mentioned as a possibility, but I spoke to my neighbors and they support Elite Aesthetics. They didn't really support the drug rehab facility, although it would be a convenient walk for some in that area. This is a positive use. It's a passive use, and it will not have a negative effect on the neighborhood. I don't fully understand the protocol, but I need your help tonight to, again, do the right thing. You always have in the past, and I appreciate it.
Jim?
Jim Sweeney.
He'll talk to you
Okay.
at some point. Okay.
Our next speaker is John Nicholson.
Wait.
No, we don't need to hear from Jim.
Okay.
No, we don't need
No.
to hear. You're gonna talk to Jim.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay. Well, I don't know what that is.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grand River Avenue. I was going to talk about the ACLU lawsuit. I still would like you just to drop it. We are at 85,000 people, so there's 15,000 people that do not have a right to vote in the city of Daytona Beach. That's unconscionable. You say, oh yeah, they can vote, but their vote doesn't count. That's not voting if you cannot use your vote to its fullest extent, all right? You cannot jam, it's illegal to jam 20,000 people in one zone and 10,000 in another. It's illegal. So the lawsuit is there, and I believe we're going to lose it because of several things that have happened. But even if we don't lose it, it's not fair to have unequal zones. All right, the county has 1%. You cannot be deviating more than 1%. The city does 10%, or has in the past. So we were at 90%. 90% is a heck of a lot more than 10%. So we should, and our charter says that we should, or we shall, rezone. Okay, every time we annex. We've annexed property over the last 20 years? 800 times? And we've never rezoned.
800?
It should be rezoned. We have to do it. And secondly, on the Wolf-Famous Beach, when I was talking to, I've always hated those signs, those new ones at all the parks. It is such a bland, washed out, mustard-colored design. The one that they've got there is attractive, all right? It's a, I don't know what you want to call it, tangerine, all right? That's a yellow to me, okay? I'm not good at fuchsias and magentas and all that kind of stuff, but I know yellow when I see it, all right? And when she's looking at that yellow, when she had the three things, she's saying orange. And I'm like, that's not orange. That fringe is not orange. That fringe is yellow. So the signs that we have, I'm not happy with. The one that's on the screen here is attractive. The design is attractive. The DB is just, there's just something about it that is bland. It's not as noticeable, all right? If we're going to change it, we want to have it dynamic. That DB, it's just so, it's like when he did the flamingo for the Christmas, it was just not enough. So if we're going to do this, we should really put a stamp on it.
I like it, John. I don't agree with you. What? Hey, she didn't tell us before. All right, that part, I like it. But, yeah, you're right, I would. I'm not good with colors. Good night, Daytona Beach. Continue to be great.